Absolute DC and Ultimate Marvel are the two latest micro lines, as I have taken to calling them based on David Harper's excellent reporting and sketch. That's a term that I think he coined, and I'm sticking with it. And essentially, what it refers to are these lines within lines, if you will, that are kind of separate and segregated, but uh, highly curated at the same time. And I think you can include stuff like G.I. Joe in that idea as well, the Energon universe. But today we're specifically focused on Absolute and Ultimate. These two micro lines feature superhero stories being told in, you could say, untraditional fashion in some cases, and they've been very, very successful. We are 1 year in to the Ultimate Experiment and just a few months into the Absolute Experiment. So you could make the argument that it's unfair to pair them against each other, but we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to examine the good and bad of both and which one we're preferring right now to this point. We've got Marco,
Howdy do.
Tyler.
I'm just excited to hear Marco's intros going forward since he's trying something new. It's going to
Every
be
time.
painful.
Yeah, howdy do is that's a little brutal. And I'm Sean. Thank you for being here with us, whether you are live or in the future. One of my favorite things is when we gear up to go live and we see you guys here early, kind of talking amongst yourselves. Hecatron said, "Hell yeah, I made it here on time today." Thank you. Thank you for making being here on time a priority. Pete Collins made it here with us. Electrics, Matthew Price, Kefis, my favorite rival,
You said,
Banksy Main, JetX, CW Gordon, Rami, Atomic Hound.
you said,
Atomic Hound dropped a
oh yeah, he did.
49.99 super chat on us. Super thanks, actually, which is the first time we've even gotten one of those on the new 52 deep dive compilation that we put out. Huge thank you for that, Atomic Hound.
Yeah, you kind of like sneakily put that in. I was like, I saw a notification on my phone when I was working. I was like, oh, that's a thing people can do.
It's crazy.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. Huge shout out. Great way to start out the year. Stuff like that. I love to see it. Rocky56 says, I want to stay for the live, but I'm working a double. Well, brother,
Oof.
we will be here for you when you're done. We'll be live still. No, we won't be.
Oh
Uh,
well.
but, the streams are always there, so you can catch us after the fact. Happy that you want to contribute, though. Really appreciate you being here. Um, a lot of you already here with us. Grateful for that. We're gonna get right into the topic. But before we do, actually, I wanna do a little bit of housekeeping since we're all here. Uh, a a Jason Aaron is coming on the channel on Tuesday. I'm so excited.
Whoa.
I'm so excited for that.
Big
Jason
bet.
Aaron's going to be joining us on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. We've never spoken to him before for the purposes of the show. So that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good get. He's been doing really good stuff. Almost feels like a resurgence come to form. So it's been a lot of fun to see the work. I'm just looking forward to chatting some Marvel's Aquatic Man Namor.
And we have Bug Wars. We're gonna talk about his new indie stuff, which he
Yeah.
gave us a little sneak peek at. But like, yeah, he's not that he's come up out of nowhere, but like he's had his finger in a lot of different pies, and you don't realize it until you start like expanding outwards. Like, oh wait, no, he's here. He's here. He's at Marvel. He's an Image. He's DC.
That hot new writer, Jason
Yeah,
Aaron,
yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that
the
upstart.
the young gun. What was the other one? The next wave?
Stormbreaker.
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 Yeah,
But I
Yes.
think Stormbreaker's
that
for
was artist. That was
artists,
artist.
right?
Yeah.
The Architects, we had those back in the day.
Oof.
Jason Aaron's practically been all of those. So yeah, it's gonna be awesome to have him on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Make sure you guys show up for that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is a little bit of an announcement about Pals Pulls this week. I want to make sure everybody hears this. I'll say it a few times throughout the show. Pals Pulls is going to be on Friday this week. We are bumping it one day because we are going to be making a guest appearance on Near Mint Conditions channel. They're going to be doing their evergreen episode for the month this Thursday. And so I'm going to be making a guest appearance over there. Marco and Tyler get the night off, thankfully for them, get to experience life on a Thursday. And then we're going to rejoin you guys on Friday to do Pals Pulse. You get an extra day to read the books. We'll see if that helps. And yeah, if you guys want to come check me out on Near Mint Condition, I'll be over there on Thursday. So
It'll help me out. I'll have more time to read the other books we don't get to.
true. True.
Maybe some extra shout outs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That could be the case. All right, let's jump into it. Absolute versus ultimate. So let's start out with the ultimate side of things. Or yeah, let's start out with the ultimate side of things. Obviously, there was an Ultimate Universe 20 plus years ago that Marvel launched, and it was a lot of fun. It spun its wheels towards the end. They culled it alongside, a bunch of other things in Secret Wars, and then it was put to rest. Somewhere around 2019, 2018, there started to be rumblings of a new Ultimate Universe spearheaded by Donny Cates. Cates obviously had a lot of things happen in his life that led to him being on the sidelines as far as writing comics for a minute. And Jonathan Hickman stepped up and ushered in a new Ultimate Universe with Ultimate Invasion here last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago at this point.
It was end of 2023.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then shortly after that, in 2024, we got the introduction of Ultimate Spider-Man, and then Ultimate X-Men followed, Ultimate Black Panther, the Ultimates proper, and we were off to the races with an entire line of comics. 12 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man in, with the other books roughly in the same space, 11 to 12 issues deep. How are you guys feeling about Ultimate Marvel?
I We've had more time to sit with the Ultimate Universe, so I think that naturally breeds more variation that allows for more a wider spread of opinion. Um, and I think it's been successful in being able to bring in readers to reactivate readers. We've had people join our Discord and the community at large who have come in because of it. So I think the mission statement of the Ultimate Universe is a successful one. When it comes to the quality of the books, for me, it's varied. I think it started off hot out the gate, right? Almost almost all of the books. X-Men and Black Panther were maybe some question marks, but I think the others from the first, second, third issue were exciting, and some have carried that momentum, others haven't. So I think overall it's strong. It's a strong offering, but you might have to curtail the palette a bit because for something like a Spider-Man, uh, it's been working. It's good comics, but I haven't been invested in. I haven't the desire, the want to be like, oh my god, I have to grab this next issue. Has been there, with exception to this latest issue. That twist was cool. So maybe they've brought me back in, but they're doing the good work that comics should be doing to keep you along. Even something like Ultimate X-Men started off relatively low for me, but has since pulled me back in. So I think it just varies the title and your predilection for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that the Ultimate Line's had more time to cook, but I think that's to its advantage because
Mm.
I wasn't the hottest on them when they started. I still think like Ultimate Spider-Man's a great book, but it only really started to kick in last issue for me. It that one's a slow burn. I think, which is wild because I think that's a hot take, uh, if you're to judge the YouTube comments, because everyone seems to love Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't love it. I like it, but it's been a little too slow for my taste. I did catch up to Ultimate X-Men, but I think it's also the same issue. Ultimate X-Men was a slow burn, in so much that like we even dropped it from the Palsbles because every issue we might read up to issue 5, I think.
6, I think it was. 'Cause
6
we
for
had a
the
vote.
okay,
We
yeah,
gave it the arc.
yeah. Um, and it was just we didn't have much to say between issues because it was so, I guess, decompressed. Um, but now that it's had, it's given its time, it's learned to walk. I'm liking it, and it's got a certain pace to it, and a certain what's the word I'm looking for? It's got a vibe to it that I don't see in comics, especially big two superhero comics. That is refreshing. Ultimate Black Panther, I have the issues. I haven't caught up to it, but even that, I felt like, all right, this feels like an MCU book. I don't see much difference compared to the big two, or the mainline universe. So the Ultimate line is kind of a mixed bag for me. I think overall, it is a good. It's a good thing that it exists. First of all, I think it's really heightened the line, but I'm excited to see more. Ultimates remains my favorite book in comics right now. Ultimates is phenomenal. That's the one that like jumps out to me. Out of even thinking about absolute books, putting them all on next to each other, Ultimates jumps out the most. But it's a bit of a mixed bag. So I think overall, good.
Okay. Matt Fisher with the 4.99 says Yoski. Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate X-Men are the best of the line. Absolute is great all around. Long live Haywire. Matt Fisher, you got to let Haywire go, bro. That movie. Has anybody else seen that movie? It's so bad. I walked out of the theater. It's the only time I've ever done that.
That's with the Daily Wire woman, right?
Gina Carano.
Yeah.
Gina Carano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She won
Yep.
in one of Ben Shapiro's movies that he tried making.
God awful. God awful. Brutally bad. Um, yeah, I mean, the Ultimate line, I think, had a pretty rough start because Ultimate Invasion to me was not it. It just didn't feel right. It was weird.
It, even in hindsight, it feels out of place.
Yeah, like it was doing so much heavy lifting, so much world building. It didn't make the best use of Brian Hitch. It was just an odd duck. And there's a part of me that wants to go back and read it, partially because I don't all the way remember every beat of it, but also just to reevaluate it with everything we know now. But man, it felt weird when it was coming out. And everything that has come since feels better than that. It feels clearer, more direct than that. I would say that Ultimate Spider-Man has really been a mixed bag in a lot of ways. I think I started off loving it because it's like, wow, this is brand new, and it's Peter as a grown ass man. What does that look like? Starting from there, no teenager, no high school, none of that. No, not even a radioactive spider bite, the way we saw, and that was cool. It was really fun to get introduced to all the differences, and then I started to become aware of the pace and the fact that every issue, whatever the cliffhanger is not going to be something that we get to see resolved. And that's when I started to develop a problem with the series, where it's like, wait a second, this doesn't feel right as a flow in comics. If you were watching a television show and at the end of every single episode, you knew that the next time you saw that show, a month of time would pass between the events of the episodes, even if it was weekly. You'd be like, what the fuck? It's a crazy thing. And it leads to the individual issues feeling too slow, but the events passing feeling too fast. it's a bizarre pace that each of the series has. And I feel it the most. I think I feel it the most in Ultimate Black Panther, but it's the toughest to swallow in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah,
I think the 1 month that requirement, that function, it was a good idea until it hampered some of the storytelling, and I think that uh, it it's a shame because I could see a lot of just sticking on Spider-Man. I could see a lot of those adventures happening the same way that I would, the OG Amazing Spider-Man. An event happens in a book in an issue, and then we go on to the next issue, another event, another villain, whatever it is, right? But because there is that continuity between issues, that's what makes it feel like they feel like isolated. Each issue feels isolated from the other, but it doesn't even make it feel like a moment in time for that issue to breathe.
it's I think a weird creative decision to have to have every book abide by it. Like I think it actually kind of works with Ultimate X-Men, um, because it's in a school format. It
Yeah,
almost makes sense that it's going each month. It's almost like a full year of school. Like that almost makes sense. It makes sense with Ultimates because there's that ticking clock about the maker, and we get that time is referenced throughout it. Um, but it doesn't work for Spider-Man. There were what cliffhanger Sean was it? Was it the it was that's what it was in Ultimate Spider-Man. It was Harry and Peter. They get Iron Man shows up, and that's the cliffhanger. It's like, oh shoot, Iron Man shows up, and the next issue we never see Iron Man.
Right.
Is he? I think he's like
Well,
referenced.
we
he's
get the
in it.
flashback.
It's a flashback, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it doesn't. It didn't resolve the way you'd imagine a cliffhanger to resolve. Um, it's been weird for Spider-Man, and it as well for Black Panther because that's a war happening. Like it's a lot of nothing happening during this war.
but surely there are ways, and obviously, both Ultimates and X Men are making use of this, where there's a way to be able to uh, tell a singular story in that time frame and not be reliant on the previous or um or upcoming issue for the continuity of the story arc that you're telling. Like the larger arc obviously can deal with, you're trying to make your way through to defeat villains or find out who the bad guy is, all that kind of stuff, but to not make it dependent on a cliffhanger.
I think um, what you're describing reminds me of Warren Ellis' Secret Avengers run. Um, it was essentially a series of one shots with a through line throughout that was kind of in the background. And the finale issue was kind of a resolution of that through line. But each issue stood on itself. Maybe something like that would work better, but I feel like it's trying just to do the normal mainline comic storytelling route, but then it's hampered by this gimmick.
Well, I think Ultimates itself is doing exactly what you
Sure.
just described
Yeah.
Yeah.
with Secret Avengers. So we know it can work, but I just don't think that I don't think that every comic is built the same. Not every storyline lends itself to that strategy. It works in Ultimates because it's a team book, because they have these different adventures that they have to go on. But with Spider-Man, where it's like theoretically anchored around this one guy, we got to spend time with that one guy. And a month passing between us even dealing with him, let alone his supporting cast, feels like a very, very long time. This is it feels like the slowest 12 issues I've ever experienced reading comics, and that's bizarre. Um,
His
Weed
supporting
Man, wait,
cast.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you said his supporting cast. I'm like, oh, you meant his kids who haven't showed up in like 10 issues?
Right. Weedman Wade says, I don't know. Wrestling shows usually end on a cliffhanger, and it works pretty fine there. Afro SF says, why should comics mimic TV or movies? The story set in real time is very creative. Okay. So to the wrestling example, I don't think that doesn't that doesn't really work because the stories are frozen after the cliffhanger. Cliffhangers are common in all television and all forms of media, but the story freezes at the cliffhanger. The difference is that in Ultimate the story doesn't freeze. So things happen in the margins where you don't see them. That's way different. And I'm not saying that that has to be inherently bad because it works in Ultimates. It's just that when you are trying to blend the two strategies and not 1 week, but 1 month passes in the margins. I mean, come on, dude. If you don't talk to somebody in your life, and no one you know is a superhero, but if you don't talk to someone in your life for 1 month, their life goes on. And then when you talk to them again, theoretically they catch you up on what happened. That's a completely different situation.
But you don't see the catch up. You hear it. You're told it.
Right,
And that's
exactly. It's
what
not
this
something
book's
you
doing.
watch unfold. Tyler's earlier example of the cliffhanger with Iron Man, we don't see in the moment the interaction with Iron Man. We flash back to it. Flashbacks, in my mind, have way less immediacy than watching something happen, and you can't get the payoff on the cliffhanger in the immediate. Like with Ultimate Spider-Man 12, crazy cliffhanger, right? Raven has Peter and Harry tied up, and these dudes are lost to the world. 1 month has to pass before we get to see what happened to them. Are they still chained up? Is
Yeah.
he feeding them?
The-
Those are the two alternatives, right? Either they escape, they manage to save the day, and they're back happy with their family, and they're looking at each other going, "Well, that was a wacky adventure, wasn't it?" Or it's been a month, MJ hasn't seen Peter, and we're still worrying about how they're gonna make it out.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they can't really fix that cliffhanger because the solution needs to be immediate.
It needs to be in
It's
the
it's
next
it's
episode.
gonna it's gonna the only option is almost like a Family Guy. Hey, remember that time when Craven? It's just like an intercut, and they just like think about it, and they're sitting on a couch together.
Yeah,
Like I could see a scenario where, Peter runs out of the jungle, he looks fucking worse for wear, and it's only him. And then the rest of the issue is a flashback that shows them trying to escape, but Craven keeps Harry and Peter runs away and he feels guilty. Like you could
But
do all that.
but you can't because then the next issue is going to be another month. You need to use the issue to tell what's
to res-
going on in the immediate.
to resolve.
You, well, that is
That's the point.
the,
Yeah,
yeah, that's the
yeah. It
problem.
becomes a time dilation loop. Oh, I sound like Doctor Who.
That's the problem that has to be faced. Blur Jose dropping 10 on us. Thank you, Blur. Blur a patron and dropping a super chat on us. Thank you so much. This convo about pacing makes me crave an episode about the reading experiences of Wednesday Warriors versus collected edition readers. Are some runs better enjoyed via one or the other? I think for me, I will always prefer reading comics monthly. That's just who I am. That's just how I enjoy stories in general, for the most part. I like to stay really connected to them. Other people feel differently than me. I don't know if there's a way to answer what is better, although I think I've definitely read some things that I'm like, yeah, I got to put this away for now. Like Nice House on
Yeah,
the Sea, by the Sea, whatever. Like I decided I'm putting that away until it's wrapped up and I can read a whole bunch of them at once.
I
that
think.
was going to be my example with
Good point.
manga. I would rather not catch up. I would rather wait because I know that if I find something that's gonna suck me in, man, I'm locked in. I'm locked into that, Tyler. I'm looking at my desk here right now. I Am a Hero has these omnibuses that um I'm still waiting on like the seventh or eighth, and I stopped at four because I'm like I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna wait for this because I'm gonna destroy this.
I think it's a good discussion to be had though because we kind of do both here.
Yeah.
We do Palace Bowls. We also do book clubs. And sometimes those book clubs are for books that we might have read weekly. I think, like with event comics, I love reading on Wednesdays. But sometimes, like reading Civil War as a whole, straight through, pretty damn fun. So it's different experiences, but I'd be curious what would be better. Like honestly, I think Walking Dead for me, I preferred when I was like binging it, when I was reading it, in compendium form, instead of the monthly. But yeah, it's an interesting just thought.
Thank you,
Depends the
Blur.
book. Depends what you want. Like Absolute Batman right now. Yo, give that to me monthly. I want to eat good.
Yeah, yeah, I'm totally with you. Uh, Weedman Wade says, in this social media era, wrestling cliffhangers aren't frozen either. You get promos posted to Twitter. You get YouTube update videos from both promotions and wrestlers. It's similar. I think because I watch so much wrestling, especially ones without weekly shows, the pacing makes sense to me. I'm watching like 8 hours of wrestling a week, bro. I'm pretty tapped in. There's a gulf of difference. Like you will not miss anything that Roman Reigns does if you do not watch the weekly program. It's just and if for some bizarre reason, if Kevin Owens posts a promo on Twitter, when you tune into SmackDown, they're gonna show you that promo 50,000 times. I don't think you can compare 20 pages of story to 3 hours of television. And again, by and large, the shows are frozen between episodes. You can't. I watch too much
It
wrestling. You can't make that argument with me.
it's also hard to argue because it's weekly.
And
If
it's
if
weekly.
if Raw
It's
were
not monthly.
yeah, if Raw were monthly, and it ends with I don't know, Kevin Owens taking out Sami Zayn on a Monday, and a month later, Sami Zayn's fine. It's because it's a month. He had time to
Right.
To heal.
yeah, he had time to
Yeah.
heal. Um,
Exactly.
And to that, JetX says, I get your point, but it's not necessarily exactly 1 month apart. I bet that this next issue takes place 1 to 2 weeks after the last issue. It all needs to happen in January. That's not the promise. That's not what we're getting. It happens. This is January, February. It's gonna happen. What was it? This last one was Christmas, right?
Yeah.
yeah, it
So
was
if it
Christmas. Yeah.
happens on Christmas, it's not gonna happen. January 3rd. It's
No,
gonna be January like 19th or something.
Peter's having dry January with Craven, and then meanwhile,
Yeah.
the symbiote man is with his wife right now.
Hey yo.
Like, how does that happen? What happens in a month there? She learns to love him.
Yeah,
That'd be
like I think
crazy.
if you're actually reading Ultimate Spider-Man, you can feel the month to month pace. Like it's baked in. I don't think you can make the argument of it just has to take place in that month because when you read the book, you feel the length of time that separates the issues and it's baked into the concept. It is what it is. Um
There's so
Cole
many.
says, I don't need immediate follow up, and if it's important, they'll show us like the Iron Man bit. I don't see it as a loss. We just have to agree to disagree. I think we're missing too much in the margins. And then if you're telling me that we're not missing anything in the margins, then Spider-Man's life is pretty fucking boring. Like, I don't get why Kingpin has waited so long to do anything about Spider-Man and Harry. The only reason is the rule of the universe, like outside of the comics, and has nothing to do with what is happening in universe.
It's arbitrary rule.
Right.
And like, Spider-Man's fucked with Kingpin a couple times, and Kingpin's like, well, he's not a big deal. We'll deal with it.
That issue was cool in the moment, and then they walk away. Uh, you know, uh, where was the heat? That was such a down moment. It
Yeah,
it, it was both a height and a low for the book.
heat is the issue for me in this book. It's because the individual issues can generate heat, but then that heat's lost by the time I read the next issue because of the time.
It's a problem, it's a problem in Ultimate Black Panther too. Marco
Yeah,
mentioned them just walking away. It happens in Ultimate Black Panther. Black Panther's fighting Moon Knight or Raw, or whatever, and they just walk away at the end of the issue because there's no way to show, and you can't end the issue with, oh man, the cliffhanger of this big battle, and then come with the next issue and have the battle. They have to resolve it because a month has to pass.
They need to start scheduling their battles. Hey,
Right.
can I meet you like a
Yeah.
month? Can we just do like a Zoom invite?
It's like, sorry, that actually that doesn't work for me. Can we? Yeah, yeah, okay, let's provide. Dude, even Marvel's the king at just like instead of squashing beef, throwing some snow on that with even the X-Men, this most recent crossover finale, dude. Everyone's just like, we'll get you next time,
Yeah, just
Unk.
gonna walk away.
Yeah.
It's like when you have a beef at school, like I'll see you at 3 after the bell. Be there. Yeah.
They
All
show up.
right.
It's like, hey, actually, my mom has to pick me up. I have, I got soccer
Conflict.
practice.
Yeah, I got a conflict.
Yeah, yeah,
Jay Sage dropping the 9.99 pound on us. Gosh, you guys are out the gate this morning. I'm loving it. As a manga reader, I find some stuff is way better at a go, but I prefer the weekly grind. Like with
Jujutsu Kaisen.
You got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
free every week. Absolute Superman makes me wish I had everything at a go. I'm 50-50 with Ultimate Spider-Man.
Fire
Thank
every
you.
week.
Thank you, Jay Sage. Appreciate you.
CW Gordon says they literally scheduled the most recent final fight in the last Black Panther issue for the next full moon. But there's, I guess that's how you do it.
And it's like
yeah.
I'm laughing, but like that's fine. Like that's clever. I get like for that book, that works. But my problem is that we also got like 3 or 4 issues ago when it was like, all right, we're fighting, but you know what? I gotta walk away. And Ultimate Black Panther's just like, all right, dog, I'll catch you around the way, man. I'll see you later.
He wasn't
bro.
feeling it that day either. Everyone was a little off. Yeah.
You've been killing my people. You've been waging war. I got you right here, but I'm gonna see you down the road. It's okay.
I think the other issue, if I can switch a little bit, the other issue I have with like Ultimate Spider-Man, and like I said, I think Ultimate Spider-Man is a good book.
Yeah.
It's not bad by any means. But the other issue I have with it is it doesn't seem like it is actually giving me what it sold me on. What it sold me on was this is Peter as an adult Spider-Man. He's got a wife. He's got kids. Let's see what that's like. We're so used to Peter juggling, oh, my work, my college, being a bachelor. It's hard to manage. Peter is just hanging out with Harry all the time.
Yo, where
his
Peter, bro.
yeah, he's the worst dad. Because he doesn't seem to be doing his actual job that makes money. And like Mary Jane's kind of doing her own thing in the background. She's hanging out more with like more interaction with like Jonah and Uncle Ben, really, than anything. The kids were missing for multiple issues.
Yeah, 5 issues.
So I was like, what's the point? Why did we just sitcom these kids? Just write them off. So what I wanted out of it being different than what the main line is doing, it wasn't really giving me.
Yeah. I'm with you, Tyler, in that I think Ultimate Spider-Man is a good book. I like it a lot, but I don't love it. And I think it's fine. It'll probably net out to be pretty good when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Shifting gears a little bit, and we'll spend less time talking about the other books because they're not as big, I guess. Ultimate Black Panther. I really like the general idea of the book. The first few issues I was super hot on. I thought that they were really good. I like what Brian Hill's putting down, and I like the way he's differentiating it from different Black Panthers that we've seen by sort of doing it, where they're adding like those priests who have potentially some powers, the ability to see into the future or prophesize or whatever. I thought all that was really cool. Go ahead.
I like the term "dooning" it.
It feels like Dune. I like to switch up on Moon Knight. I like all of the things that are laid out. I just feel like the conflict of the series is struggling because of the month to month delivery. I don't think personally that Brian Hill was aware. Again, this is just my supposition. I don't think he was aware of the framing when he started putting this whole thing together because it doesn't feel like that month to month concept is baked into the storytelling at all. And I think that book suffers the most for it.
It almost feels like the timeline of the events were laid out, and then somebody just started cutting, cut, and it doesn't feel connected in some ways.
Yeah. Um, but everything else about it is pretty good. Like I really love this version of Black Panther. It's the only Black Panther book on the stands, and I'm pretty happy with it. Like some people complain that he doesn't feel materially different enough from mainline Black Panther, but I look at him very much like I look at Captain America. There's not a lot you need to change. I think Captain America's a perfect character, and I think Black Panther's a perfect character. I think Peter Parker is a perfect character in that the central concept works and you don't really need to deviate. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Who do you like more? Fucking OG Cap or slash Ultimate Cap or the original Ultimate Cap? The original Ultimate Cap felt like change for the sake of change, and everybody's ready to leave that motherfucker in the dust, right? So
That dude's just a meme now.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was fine for the time, but I don't need that. Like, I don't need you to change Captain America. He's good. Revolutionary Dragon with the 2 spot. Brian Hill said Ultimate Black Panther is inspired by Dune. Okay, so there you go.
There it is.
He do be doing it.
Yes, indeed.
Doobie doobie deen.
Um, Ultimate X-Men, I have said a lot about this book. I am not a fan of it. I did drop it. 6 issues deep. We gave it the arc. I think that's more than fair. It's a lot fairer, quote unquote, than I've been to a lot of other books. It's not even the pacing that's doing it for me. Like the month to month pacing isn't the problem that I was having with that book. It's literally just that it doesn't feel like an X Men comic, and it's just too out the woods for me. What I'm looking for.
And guess what, Sean?
So
Having caught up, doesn't feel like an X-Men comic. But it
Yeah.
feels like something else, and I'm
Thank
okay
you.
with that. Yeah.
Thank you. And that is fine, right? Like we said from the jump, if you like that book, that's awesome. We debated how many times did we debate? How many times did one of us like say like, "Oh, I'm in on this one. Nah, I'm back out on that one." Like we all I feel like went back. None of us was lockstep every single issue. And I've arrived at the place where I'm good. Tyler arrived at the place where it's different, but he's into it. And Marco's still fucking with it.
I mean, I was out the gate down.
I mean,
The
it's
first couple issues,
it's tailor made for you. Let's be real.
that's why I was so disappointed with it. It only has turned around within like after issue 7, 8, where stuff like the Children of the Atom has come into play. There's like this religious cult aspect to it that is starting to become more central, and they're the ones kind of controlling things, the machinations for it. That part's been the thing that has brought me back and made it feel a little bit more like a manga to me, because we're talking about those kinds of things like a religion, where cults, some classic shit.
Oh yeah.
So I've turned around on it, and it's one of the books that I get excited for any week that it's out. Yeah, I think that the the harm with that book though is for people like me who didn't want to stick through off of Peach Mocha's name alone are out on a potentially great title. And I think that that's to no fault to the creator, um, or to Marvel. It's simply the way that the story was to be told, and that may not jive with everyone. But I would argue, uh, come back in, give it. I think what's the next issue? I think it's like 13, maybe. Um, I think that we're gonna get into a jumping on point soon. So stay tuned for it so you can come back into the world because I think it's starting to grow and flesh out. Yeah, 13's next. I think 15 might be the next jumping on point.
I'm gonna grab this super chat from Rami Darwish with the 10 spot. You guys are amazing this morning. We've got over 100 of you with us right now. I'm loving the vibes, loving your energy. Keep it up. Thank you for joining us. There are other channels live right now that have a whole bunch of people watching them too. I'm glad you guys are choosing us. Rami says, personal take, DC does what it does best. A broad storyline that all the books, absolute or not, follow cohesively. The monthly thing with the Ultimate Universe is annoying sometimes. Yeah, and thank you, Rami. And I think that's something that people have to understand, right? Like, it is a different approach. It is a different approach, and that is not going to work for everybody.
Mm, yeah.
That's just how it is. And in a way, Absolute being more traditional in the sense that there really aren't any gimmicks attached to it. To me, it creates a playground where creators can just sort of do their best work. You know, when we are on the other side of the Maker's Arrive, and we can look at the first year of Ultimates unto itself, and we can say, hey, was that worth it? Was it worth doing the month to month thing in the books? Did it enhance the stories?
Was that worth it in terms of price?
Oh well, the answer is
As a comic reader, you never look back when it comes to that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't count. Don't count.
AF, advance forward. That's all.
Almost every time I look back, books that cause me to look back, to think about looking back, I regret it. But yeah, we're gonna have to ask that question of ourselves down the road. And here right now, um, you know, I said a year. It'll be 18 months or whatever it is. Um, right now I'm feeling like it's a no. I'm feeling like it's a no. That it wasn't worth it.
Presumably it doesn't. Presumably these things do not ladder up to the Maker's arrival in any meaningful way, except maybe the Ultimates. Ultimate X-Men, I have no idea how that's going to play in. Well, the Children of the Atom are supposed to be like, led by a leader that is involved in the cabal. So uh, if nothing materially affects the arrival of the Maker, it would feel like these things, these books, what we've read so far is wasted space. There could have been something more tangible to help us and help the arrival of the Maker. More machinations in the background. Like right now, it's a lot of wait and see. We're dealing with the Maker's goons, but like wait and see. Let's see what's going on.
Sure.
Speaking of wait and see, it sometimes feels like the Maker has to do something. You can't just show up because like that affects Ultimates, sure. But I think he needs to do something that has ramifications for all the books because he can't show up in every book. That's the thing. And I think that we've been teased about an incursion. Wasn't it like teased in that time slide book?
Yeah,
The
it was.
Ultimate Incursion.
Ultimate
something
Incursions, yeah. Which that would have lasting effects on every book. That's a big enough event that it could happen in Ultimate X-Men. It could happen in Ultimate Black Panther without the Maker needing to be within those books. I think it's too soon for that. If it's an incursion in the sense of incursions that we know them, Hickman does love himself an incursion. But yeah, it's a real wait and see approach.
None of the books feel like they're ready to move forward into the Maker's arrival and then the impact of that shaping those books going forward. Whether they end, whether they transform somehow, like they don't feel like they're ready to move forward, which is the weird part. Would you say any of the outside of Ultimates, because that's a little bit of a different animal, would you say that any of them feel ready within the next 8 issues or less for the Maker to arrive and then to radically shift things up?
No, and even Ultimate's the one that is kind of ready for it. It's only ready because the text of the book is that they're not ready.
Right.
Yeah.
It's aware of what the books are, or the other books aren't really aware of.
That's the story of that book.
Exactly. So no, it doesn't. Like if Miles Morales shows up in Ultimate Spider-Man, okay, I'm not even with that book long enough to have that really be any kind of impact.
I need regular Spider-Man in that book to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, let's see. Near says if we saw the immediate of what happens in the next issue of Ultimate Spider-Man at the beginning, then skipping a month in the issue to see how that affects everyone long term in the next month, would that work? Dude, I just like just reading that right now made my brain hurt. So trying to like establish what that looks like in the comic is just like too much work to have to do. Like I kind of just want I kind of just want the regular month over month or issue by issue, pacing. I don't want all that rigmarole. Feels like you have to do gymnastics.
Literally get a recap page going for like and this is what happened. This was Peter's poop schedule.
uh Young Dende, that's how I'm reading that name, says Ultimate X-Men is super cash money. What makes it different is what makes it special, and that metatextual mutantdom makes it feel more like an X-Men than even some of the From the Ashes books. Hey, bro, if it's working
Hell
for you,
yeah.
that's awesome. The fact that it's so different, right, does make it special, but it also makes it divisive. And that's my reaction to everybody who loves Ultimate X-Men that's surprised that I don't or that people don't. Like it's it's divisive for a reason. I would rather Scott Summers be in that book rather than whoever is Cyclops in it. I don't want that. That's not what I want. And that's cool too. But I'm happy for everybody it's working for.
Also, Young Dende, if you're selling CDs to me on the streets of New York City, name alone, I'd buy it.
Just samples Namekian culture and Dragon Ball Z sound effects. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's a sick name.
Matt Fisher with the 4.99 super chat. Actually, pretty astute observation here. It comes down to this: Ultimate feels finite. Absolute feels like it could run for years.
I see that. I see that. I mean, Ultimate can run for years in the sense that stuff can happen after the maker's arrival, and the characters can try to claim the world for themselves and have to remake it in their own image. I think there's a lot of beefy storytelling there, but putting a clock on things does make it feel like after the maker's defeated, is there a reason to continue to tell stories here? Is there a reason to continue reading stories here? And that's going to have to be an individual choice. I hope it doesn't lead to sales slumping.
Where like they'll beat the maker, and I can see that being I can see the end panel. It's a two-page spread. All the heroes are kind of like on a cliffside, overlooking the ocean, the water, the sun is in their face, and they're looking out. Look at what this bright new world can be. Finn. The like in Smash, the opening where they're like all overlooking the ocean.
Hmm.
That's what it is. There's just
Okay,
the sun beaming down.
if we're comparing the Ultimate line to Super Smash Brothers lore, that's not a good sign for the Ultimate line. I don't
But
need
I
a
agree.
subspace emissary of the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, and I would hope that the story does continue, that they rebuild the world, that, but also, and this is a question I guess for you guys too, that if we're being told that this is a deviation of mainline because someone tinkered with it, doesn't that also just mean that Maker's defeat makes it collapsible?
I don't know. I think we're, what's the word I'm looking here? Doom saying the line. Like I don't think we need to think about the end of the line just yet. Like we got Ultimate Wolverine coming up this month.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
it
think
seems
we're gonna start seeing how the line can grow, and I think the Maker bit will only breed more story. There, like even though Ultimate Invasion is confusing as fuck, it does seed a lot of different places in this world that could have be like rife for storytelling, like Colossus and Ilyana being like these bad people from Russia that are running it. Interesting, which we're going to get touched on a bit in Ultimate Wolverine. But I think there's a lot in this world where like I just want to zoom in, see what's going on here. So I think there is room for growth,
Yeah.
even outside of the maker of it all.
And Aaron Ruiz brings up a good point. Is the Maker going to be defeated? I feel like since they may do some ultimatum type of story with the villain overwhelming the heroes that are not prepared, and I feel like that's the messaging we've been getting. These guys aren't ready. No one is ready. Fucking Spidey's still getting clocked out by Shocker. So like, they're gonna handle the Maker? Nah, they're gonna get their asses whooped. Uh, set their wounds because they're gonna get clocked hard. Um, and maybe more heroes come along the way.
The thing with the maker is he never loses. He just adjusts. Like even I think the closest he got chumped out was like Al Ewing's New Avengers, where like Squirrel Girl's team beats him up. But even then he adjusts and changes. So that's a character you can have constantly be an antagonist in the background.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many possibilities. You know, I'm not worried about all that yet. I think, we've got a lot of time left for story. Um Ultimate Power says even if the Maker is defeated, it doesn't mean all villains cease to exist. By that point, it's just another alternate universe. 616 doesn't have a Maker yet. There's conflicts in every book. Yeah, I mean, again, there's so many variables and possibilities and scenarios. We don't know exactly what they're going to do. You're totally right. I assume the Maker will be defeated because that seems to be the whole gimmick here.
Yeah.
But, who knows? We'll see. We will see.
Young Dende said, "I'm about to do some generational glazing, but it is Hickman's grand design we're dealing with here. I'd be willing to bet that it is all going to wrap up incredibly well."
Let me introduce you to something called Krakoa. Uh, yeah, I just like I am a massive Hickman fan. Hickman is my favorite writer today. I I think it'll all be fine. I think it'll all be fine.
But Hickman has been known to go tell his comics, "Hey, I'm gonna go grab some milk real quick, and I'll be back."
Right.
Just in
Right.
time for dinner.
Yeah.
Sure. Briefly on the Ultimates. Ultimates is my favorite series in comics right now. I think it is a brilliant stroke. It is utilizing the month-to-month schedule the best. It feels the most connected to the overall story of the universe, which makes it feel like the must-read book of the line, even though Ultimate Spider-Man sells more. Um, and I really love the radical shifts that Dennis Camp is pulling off with the characters who there's space to do that with. Like I said earlier, I don't think you need to break things up with Cap just for the sake of it, but you can do something radical with She-Hulk. She-Hulk's character is not so like mainline She-Hulk is great, but I don't think that means that you can't twist and change that character around and arrive at an interesting place, which they did.
Just use her as an archetype and then change around it. Yeah, I love Ultimate. I mean, Ultimates is our book of the year, or our best ongoing of the year, according to the Pallies. I like it because it's so honest and its critique and the subtext and its real life applications that it's talking about that I don't think I've seen in a Marvel book in a long,
Yeah.
long time.
Shout out to Greg Land's younger brother, Mike Land,
Oh.
for joining the the Comics Pals membership at the Sidekick tier. What's up? Welcome.
That is hilarious. Thank you, Mike.
And a reminder to all 105 of you that you get access to early videos,
Oh my God.
extra
We got some
content.
cool stuff on there actually right now. Just that's members only right now.
Hell yeah. Including palling around. Uh pen pals. Pen Pals, which is our gift to you guys. We answer your questions. Love to do it every month. Um, yeah, I think this book is phenomenal. Everybody ought to be reading it. I love what it's doing. I love what it's saying. I love the messaging. And there's stuff to actually dissect and mine. Those early issues were deeply packed. And Ultimates issue 4 is maybe my favorite like individual single issue in the last 10 years, maybe longer. I love it to death.
I-
Um,
If
Go ahead.
we're gauging the success, like I'm thinking in terms of numbers. There's 4 titles out right now, right? Um, and let's say from like 0 to 100, we're trying to give these a score. What does that net out to for the success of each title? Like the Ultimates for me is top tier. That's like a good 90, 100. That consistently knocks it out of the park. Ultimate X-Men has come around for me like a 75. Spider-Man's at like a 50, and I dropped Black Panther. I did not follow that, so I'm marking that as like a 0, let's say. That nets out maybe a 50-50 for the line at the moment.
You're doing Steiner math,
Yeah,
Marco.
for real. I'm like trying to like who does a 100 scale? Whatever happened
100
to?
scale tier.
I'm a 5-star guy.
Yeah,
You
same
know,
thing. It's just
I know, but the numbers get too big at that point. I get a little confused. You
1 to
start.
5, same thing.
Um,
Go ahead, Mark.
I
Go
think
ahead, Tyler.
I think I end at the same conclusion. Is like it's about 50-50 this line for me. I think it has some really good stuff and some stuff I'm just not interested in. No, it's not all must buy, is what I'm trying to say.
And I think that I agree with you both. I think that fact is a little bit disappointing to me. I think Ultimate stands so much higher than the crowd that it really it really blows everything out of the water. Um, I think the other books have a way to go. Like even if you say Ultimate Spider-Man is phenomenal, I still don't care for Ultimate X-Men, and Ultimate Black Panther has some problems. Um, so yeah, I would say it's uneven. I would definitely say it's uneven. We do have Ultimate Wolverine on the horizon, which is gonna feel more traditionally X-Men. I think that book has a lot of promise to it. I love the creative team behind it. Chris Condon, Capuccio, Alessandro Capuccio. I think that book is going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. And we know there's some ultimate event coming this year as well. So I think the future is bright for the line, but I would say to this point, as much as I love the framing and as much as I love that it exists and everything like that, I don't actually think I love the ultimate line as individual series that much. I only love one book, which is Ultimates.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like a lot of my interest for the world as a whole only really comes from Ultimates as well. So I'm really dealing with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Revolutionary Dragon, thank you so much for the $5. Says by the end of the fight with Moon Knight, I think Wakanda is going to come out of isolation, going to take all over all of Africa to get to Ra. Oh, hey,
And that's news for Marco because he dropped the book.
it is honestly. I was like, oh, should I go back to that?
I think it's been good. Like I enjoy it, but it's a frustrating reading experience for me at the same time.
I will say, it looks damn good though.
Yeah.
Caselli doing some good shit on that book.
They didn't skip on the artists.
Yeah.
They sure didn't. Not I mean they didn't skip on any creative talent. I just don't think it's sort of coming together the way they would like. Matt Fisher dropping another 4.99. If other writers were 1/3 as good as Hickman, he would still be one half better than the 1/4 that challenged him. Oh my God.
See it. I see it.
You guys are so real for that. Like Marco, do you know what Steiner math is?
Yeah, yeah. You
Okay.
guys, you guys tell me about that one.
All right. Good.
Because this is
I'm
not
gl-
the first time I've done something like that.
I'm
This-
glad we are all initiated.
Are you gonna open up a Shawnee's restaurant down south too while you're at it, Marco?
All right, that's too far.
Okay, that's too deep in the Steiner lore for him. Okay.
Nah, I don't know if that was.
Ben loudly becoming a Comics Pal sidekick, deciding to join the channel membership program. Thank you so much for that, Ben. Really appreciate you, dude. Hope you enjoy your early access, well, your exclusive access to Pen Pals, your green name, your emojis in the chat. I want to see some pals emojis. Let me see those. We got over 100 people chilling with us right now. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning. You guys are live. The future people, there's going to be thousands of them, and they're cool. I love them. But I rock with the ones that make it to the show every Saturday morning. You are so, so real. Thank you for being here. You know what I want to do? Since you guys are so amazing and got us to over 100, I want to give away channel memberships.
Oh shit, Sean, are you wearing the pals?
No,
Oh,
no, I am wearing another branded shirt, and they're not supporting us, so I'm not going to show the brand.
Yeah, don't show your Blue Chew shirt, okay? They didn't get back.
Imagine.
It's the
Oh
Jericho
my
steak
goodness.
shirt.
yo, look at the heads roll in.
I love to see those pals heads roll.
Yeah,
Mike Lance
give
says,
us
"Hey
that
guys, glad
dome.
to be a member. Thank you for being a member. Appreciate you. Keep sharing those pals heads. Now I'm gonna give away those channel memberships. We're gonna break down Absolute now because we analyzed Ultimate. We spent an hour with the Ultimate universe. We're gonna dive into Absolute now in just a moment. What I need from you, all right? What I need from you is to indulge me because I need to celebrate some people right now, some amazing people, the people that support this channel. I'm going to run down some of our patrons. Patreon.com/the Comics Pals is the best way to support the channel. And I want to shout out, a special shout out to our Pals vs. Legends, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice Atomic Hound, who was with us, Starcross Catherine Stars, the Red Spiral Spiral Storm, Adam and Bernie the Best Boy, the Spear of Justice of Judgment, Jay's Jumble, Matthew Malice Price, who was in the chat, who just joined us at that tier. Thank you so much for that. And I want to thank Pals vs. Members, the Night Stalker Harris Dajinski, Brian Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, who was with us, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, who was with us, Marley Manistorm, Slow Flow Dammering, Christian Uncaged, who was in the chat, always laughing, the Spear of Justice, Izzy Spears, the Great Destroyer, Hyper Viper 89, Robert Runback Cashaback, Pete the Dreamweaver Collins, who was with us, James Just Jamming Jones, Paul Powerhouse Smith, Andrew the Galaxian Smith, Neon Knight the Cosmic Avenger, Matthew Shade Cosmo, BJ Kicks, and the Living Blade Boss Frontier. If you did not hear your name, that is because we will be getting to you later. We've got some pals to induct into the Palsverse. So many of you have joined over the last few days. It's been crazy. Can't wait to celebrate you all. Thank you for that.
Sean, take a sip. Take a sip. Relax. That was work right there. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Yeah, I'll read Matt Fisher's super chat in the meantime. He gave
Yeah.
another 199 saying thanks for doing that after I subscribe. Well, there's over 100 people in this chat. That's you got a what? You got a less than 1% chance of winning. So that spells disaster for you with getting that free one.
Smash the like button. James Jones is here. I shouted his name out. Izzy's here. I shouted his name out as well. Thank you for being here. Let's give away some channel memberships right now. You guys have been good. You've been patient. I'm loving the energy. Let's give away 5 channel memberships right now. Here you go.
Drum roll, please.
Ow.
Of course, every time.
Ow.
Marco, you get to check out our exclusive membership videos. Which honestly, sometimes Marco, it might feel like it's new to you.
Shout out to Marco, who won a channel membership. Jay Sage, I love that Jay Sage won that. That's so cool. Uncanny Suit back with the channel membership. Rami Darwish winning one. Glad for you, bud. And Gavin Gidry.
Hey, Gavin.
Some regulars. A lot of times it's the lurkers who win the memberships, but this time it was all regulars. So congrats to you guys.
Izzy says perennial free membership winner Marco. It is way too often.
I don't know what it is, dude.
Do you play the lotto, Marco? Like, do you do a little gambling?
No.
You might should.
Not yet. I can't do that.
Not yet. You have plans to.
I've been trying to play like online poker and shit. I've been
No.
trying to
Oh, okay. He's gonna start doing
learn
parlays now
that
next.
and stuff. So not yet.
Oh my
I
god, dude.
I like that Gavin's probably like listening, like he's like doing actual work in the background.
Technically, he actually might not even be here because that's how the channel membership thing works too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's at New Orleans Comic Con right now, or Fan Expo or something like that. It's this weekend.
Hmm.
Ah,
Yep.
okay. Damn, working hard.
Let's see. Aaron Ruiz says 4.5K subs. We're nearing the 5K milestone. Yeah, if you guys are listening and you are not subscribed, hit that sub button. I want to know that all 100 plus of you that are here right now are subscribed to the channel. That's what I want to know. Uh, as we roll on, now we're going to talk about the absolute DC side of things. Now, this line started out really hot. I think we kicked things off in October with the absolute Batman book that is one of the highest selling books of 2024. DC claims it is the highest selling book of 2024. Marvel claims Ultimate Spider-Man is the highest selling. For what it's worth, I'm pretty sure Ultimate Spider-Man is the actual best-selling book of the year. But the numbers are nothing to sneeze at any rate.
They're doing cider math themselves, honestly, with some of these
Right.
numbers. Yeah.
So the line consists at the moment of only 3 books. There are more books on the horizon that we know about, but we can't speak to their quality, obviously, because we have not read them. So we've got Absolute Batman, that kicked things off. Then we got Absolute Wonder Woman, and then Absolute Superman. Those are the 3 books we have right now. And we'll start with the first one. We'll start with Absolute Batman. This is the one that I think people were most excited about, but that felt like it would be the most pedestrian.
Mm.
I think we've already seen Scott Snyder's run on Batman. He had a lengthy period of time with the character in mainline, and I think, most people felt like, what do we need to see him return to the scene of the crime for? I did not share that belief because I like it when creators get to come back to their beloveds and see what they can do differently, maybe what they can do better, what they've learned as they've aged and grown. And I think that Scott Snyder has proven that to be true in this case. This book feels like a revelation. It is exciting every month. It's doing things that are different but still familiar. It feels like a meaningful addition to the lore of Batman overall. Like 4 issues deep, presuming that the next 2 issues follow closely the quality level, I can easily see myself recommending this first trade to any person who enjoys Batman and saying, hey, you will get different things out of this than you traditionally get out of Batman. I think that's true.
And I was one of those early, not naysayers, but hesitant people. It's like, all right, Scott Snyder, like, I love his Batman run, but do I need that again? Like if this was pitched as, all right, this is a radically different take on Batman. Why are you getting the guy who wrote Batman before? I want something radically different. And I was wrong. I was happily wrong. I think Snyder definitely has a lot of different things here, and we talk about when we talk about this book how there are subtle changes, but there's a lot of subtle changes that lead to just a wider change altogether. And I think Dragotta on art is, you talk about revelations. I think that's the revelation of this book,
Yeah.
because that is what's drastically different. Dragotta does not feel like a Batman artist, but he feels like an absolute Batman artist, if that makes sense. It's really dictating what the feel of absolute Batman is, what the absolute universe is, and also being markedly different than mainline Batman. Even though I love Dragotta's stuff here, I don't know if I can see him drawing normal Batman. It's just so specific to this Batman in this world. And if you've read East of West, which we just did a book club on, a little plug there. His art style is interesting. It's not mainstream. It's almost more manga influenced or more what's like early MTV animation, like Aeon Flux influenced, if anything, than Kirby or Ditko influenced that a lot of like mainline superheroes are. So it's different, and I really like it. This is a book that it was sold to me as this is markedly different Batman, and it is giving me that.
Yeah, I've I came into the book um ready to just be open to the experience. I wasn't sure one way or the other, but it floored me. The construction, the craft, the ideas at play. I feel like almost every issue we've reviewed of it, except for the most recent, was a pick of the week. It's it uh, in particular the craft aspect is what has engaged me the most. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm learning reading. You know, I'm being challenged, or at the very least, I'm being entertained in a way that isn't just as a normal comic might. I'm sitting there and I'm just looking over pages and understanding beats, and so I yeah have really been loving that book, and I think the success of it has been its differentiation. Um, and it's been getting so much buzz that I have a cousin who, he tangentially reads comics. He every once in a while, for like my birthday or something, will buy me comics because he knows I'm such a fan. To There's been so much buzz around it. I mean, he's kind of like on the periphery that he's heard about Absolute Batman. He's like, "Hey, have you heard about this like new universe, whatever type thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro, do it. Dive in." I'm comfortable selling people on the idea of Absolute Batman simply because it's not only good comics, but it's good craft, and I think that that's very important for people to be able to absorb. And as you become a more educated reader, I think you'll probably notice that. But as of if you're a reader just starting out, like a lot of folks in our community have been as well, it's also just a great entry point into this world without some of the baggage that might be scary, that I know was scary for me as a new reader coming in.
Mr. DC Comics made it here. What's up? You picked a great time to show up because we're talking DC now. Absolute DC, in fact. Cole says Batman immediately felt like the start of a new classic. I completely agree with you. It feels like that. I wasn't present when The Dark Knight Returns was publishing in individual issues, but this feels like my Dark Knight Returns. And I said that on one of the reviews we did, and there was some pushback, but that's how I feel about it. I'm not saying that it will net out to be as important to Batman's lore as that book. Probably not. Like obviously not, because that is a building block of the character 40 years ago. But I do think that for modern audiences, this is the start of something that can feel as radical, that can feel as dangerous, that can feel as no holds barred. And that's an exciting place to be. Remember that The Dark Knight Returns also not canon. So it does, it's not
Mm,
like the most defining stories can only be the ones that are in canon. That's not the case.
yeah.
Certainly not the case with Batman. Um, Yeah, so Absolute Batman proves to not only be a fun and exciting comic. I think Marco made a great point that it is also one that is crafty, that's doing things that feel special, and I think it starts the conversation that I want to have about the way that the Absolute Universe almost, all right, almost feels like indie books with big two characters. They don't feel strictly like mainline superhero books. I think when you look at the artist selection, specifically Hayden Sherman and Nick Dragotta, Tyler pointed it out. Nick Dragotta doesn't feel like a traditional artist for the big two. And then when you look at his panel work, normally you think about Batman, you think about these big, bold panels that really show off the character's body, and all these different things that it would traditionally focus on. You open up an Absolute Batman issue and you look at some of these pages, 16 panels. What are you doing? Oh shit, this works for Batman? Yes, it does. It's
The
brilliant.
To that art piece, right? I think that you're right. It feels like indie books because these are creators who have historically worked in that realm, and and I feel like also they may be unencumbered. I don't know to what degree, editorial is just saying, yeah, go for it. But it feels like after reading East of West for Dragoda, that's his style. That's his style, and everyone said, keep doing it, go harder, AF, dude.
Yeah.
And Sherman is a new player in the space. I only have known their work from a
Dark
Mad Cave book,
Spaces.
Dark
Uh, that
Spaces,
was
Wasted
a.
Space, something like that.
It was Dark
Dark
Spaces
And
Spaces.
Wildfires. It was a
no,
Snyder Scott Tober book, wasn't it?
And I think he did Wasted Space as well.
Oh, he
It
did.
was
Yeah, they
yeah,
did. They did
Dark
do Wasted
Spaces
Spaces.
Wildfire, Dark Spaces Dungeon, and yeah, possibly Wasted Space.
yeah, I know their work from that. And that Vault Comics was really cool. That was one of the standout from that Vault era, and to see them now be at this level, and even the most recent Dark Patterns book, not absolute, but you can see craft. You can see there's a different way to approach the way that you're presenting the visuals to us, and I think that that's becoming um, something that is differentiating for the absolute line as opposed to the ultimate line is Chicharro's putting out outstanding work. But Chicharro does, good work. There is no pushing of boundary. Pichumoko, phenomenal artist, isn't really pushing bounds. She's doing the thing that she's good at. And in this case, with both Dragoda and Sherman, uh, they're trying something different and advancing the book in ways that wouldn't be otherwise or would feel normal and regular had it not been for the inclusion of them as artists.
I mean, and Snyder said that. I mean, Snyder's curating the line. It seems that is his creator forward. The way he plans on going about this. I mean, look at even the upcoming books, like
Manhunter.
Javier Rodriguez on Martian Manhunter with Dennis Camp. Javier Rodriguez is not as much as I love his book, his art style is not traditional. It is and it isn't. But yeah, I'm excited for that book's going to be. I forget the artist on Absolute Green Lantern, but even then, not um, traditionally what you'd expect from a book.
Chinoy Lindsay.
You are right. That is Janoy Lindsay. Yep.
Uh JJ the Great. This is a funny story. JJ the Great says, surprisingly, my barber, who isn't a comic guy, asked me about Absolute DC, so I told him about it. Fast forward to next Wednesday, I'm in the comic shop and I hear someone call my name. I turn around and it's my barber with a stack of comics.
Yo, that's awesome.
Dude went all in.
Dude, my barber knows me as like the comic guy, so every time I go to get a cut, we end up talking about the latest Marvel DC movies and stuff like that. I love it's the easiest way to pass the 45 minutes it takes to make me look like a normal person. Just talking about that stuff. I love it.
Yo, imagine he's like, yo, these are some fire books. Next cut, I got you.
Right? Mr. DC Comics says, how much better would it be if the absolute characters were all new or unused characters? I'm burnt out on these multiverse characters. I'm for Marvel and DC using their untapped characters. Well, while I'm definitely with you on them using their untapped characters more, I kind of don't know if there's a reason to launch a new universe if you're going to use unused characters. Just make mainline books with them. I think Absolute Universe isn't a hit if it's like if it launches with because obviously we are getting Martian Manhunter Absolute. That feels unique. But if it launched with like Absolute Plastic Man, Absolute, Raven, and Absolute Resurrection Man, we wouldn't be talking about record sales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing that these companies need to consider is how is this going to back out for them? This is a big push, and a big push needs to be led with something that has name recognition, with something that has uh, cultural cachet, and Unfortunately, as much as I would love absolute Swamp Thing, my dude's not gonna sell books like that, man. And Mr. DC, you need to sell books.
That's just the reality of it, unfortunately. Maybe if it succeeds down the line, we can get absolute Plastic Man. But DC has trouble getting Plastic Man off the ground.
Yeah. And they're taking a shot with Martian Manhunter. Scott Snyder said if that book sells, we'll get more of it, and that will embolden DC to potentially get weirder with the Absolute Universe. But starting from the Trinity is, I mean, you can't, that is the most logical thing to do.
And I wonder if the success of, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Batman, and it lighting up the charts allows mainline DC to have a little more cachet to try through things weird. Like we have a Challenger of the Unknown book right now. We have a Plastic Man book right now. A lot of weird side characters are showing up in Justice League Unlimited. I wonder if it's having a weird side effect towards the main line.
Well, of course, we know that these publishing lines and schedules are built out so far in
Sure,
advance
sure,
they
sure.
couldn't have known the sales. But at the same time, we are seeing DC take a lot of risks, and that is exciting, and that can potentially translate into the absolute space. And we'll see how that pans out. Um, Ben loudly says, I understand the enthusiasm for Absolute, but I honestly don't see it being anything but another universe to be involved in a future crisis event. So that's a win in the column of Ultimate. And then Joe also says, I'm Team Ultimate Universe. They're giving us fans what we want. Parker Family, King T'Challa, and Marvel manga with the X-Men. Absolute feels like Black Label stories in universe. So that is the other side of the coin for sure. There are people who think Absolute is just more of the same, more of Batman, more of Superman, more of Wonder Woman. And that's cool too. Like I totally get that. I think I'm struggling because in a way I do sort of feel like Ultimate Line is doing things that feel maybe a little bit more radical in some ways. Like Ultimate X-Men definitely does.
Yeah.
Ultimates does. Ultimate Spider-Man is something you will never, ever, ever get in mainline. There's nothing about Absolute yet that feels like, wow, you could never have gotten this or get this. And so that's fair play.
You don't
But
think,
go ahead.
sorry, you don't think a uh Martha being alive or the Clark's parents or Cal's parents not even being Clark, like are those not differentiators enough to that point?
I think everybody's barometer will be different. I think
Mm.
Absolute Superman definitely feels like the most different. Absolute Batman, his mother being alive is huge, but because it doesn't alter his mission statement, it's like, okay, cool. I love it. I'm here for it, but it doesn't feel revolutionary. And again, I'm not even saying that Ultimates is not the Ultimate line is necessarily revolutionary. I just think that we've seen more of it, and it feels just a little bit more different. At the very least, I could see somebody's argument who feels that way.
Sure.
But let's talk about Absolute Wonder Woman. Absolute Wonder Woman definitely of all the books feels the most in a rut in the sense that it hasn't moved forward meaningfully from the start. If you look at issue 1 and you look at issue 3, it's essentially in the same place. Wonder Woman fighting off these creatures, fighting off the Tetracide, and meeting Steve Trevor. That is all that has happened. Um, but the revolution is in the art, I think. I think the revolution is in the Hayden Sherman art. We already talked about how much good they are doing there. Expanding the panel layouts are gorgeous. They're inventive. They're exciting to look at. Hayden is doing bomb work. I love Kelly Thompson's approach to Wonder Woman. This could easily become the defining Wonder Woman of our age, but we need to see so much more before we can really make any kind of commentary on that.
Yeah, plot wise, that book is kind of it's kind of treading water. It's been the same like grand idea plot wise. Wonder Woman's been fighting a kaiju all 3 issues so far. but I think there's some really good character work happening in that book. I think it's a more subtle book. It's a more quiet book. I really enjoy it, but I think it's a lot more character based. It's all the flashbacks to Wonder Woman kind of illuminate a certain aspect of her character, compassion, the woman out of with no real world and trying to find herself, and her relationship with humanity. So I think it's different in that regard. Again, could you do that in a mainline Wonder Woman book? Probably. Wonder Woman's origin has been rewritten in mainline comics constantly. So this one, I guess, feels the most like, okay, this could be any Wonder Woman. That being said, I still think it might be my favorite. It just looks so damn good, and Kelly has just a real voice for characters and how they talk to other people that I think is unmatched.
Yeah, I'm in I guess I'm somewhere in the middle where I'm enjoying that book, but I agree that it's not advancing in any meaningful way. We're in the same city. We're still dealing with, the general. Got to tell him to move the troops out. That kind of the story hasn't progressed. And while I don't think there's a bad thing for the longevity of the book because this is the first arc, we'll beat the big bad, and then we'll move on. And my hope is that uh, Kelly is a smart enough writer to do away um, with Steve, is smart enough to, from there, in a meaningful way, put us on the path towards figuring out the Amazons. Um, Build out some more of the supporting cast because I think that's another thing that uh, is missing for Wonder Woman is she doesn't have anyone else. Trevor, Steve, he's there, but he's not an actor. We just got the reveal of oh my god,
Minerva.
Minerva. Um, the mom presumably is dead, and so uh, I would hope that that's something that gets built out, so that way we can also see her bounce off somebody, and not just this winged pet, this undead Pegasus. There's definitely more depth to her that needs to be uncovered, and I think that needs to happen with a bigger cast. So there's some trepidation a bit for that book, but there's still excitement across the board.
And Absolute Superman. This is the biggest surprise of the three to me. I think Absolute Superman is the one that people were very down on. I mean, my God, dude. Like, our Discord server was lit up when these announcements were made, and everybody was saying, Absolute Superman, Jason Aaron doesn't have it anymore. This
Word.
is generic. This is bullshit. Rafa Sandoval, he's a regular, mainstream DC artist, Marvel artist, you know, and you motherfuckers were dead wrong.
Yo,
Dead wrong.
tell them, call them out on their shit.
I I mean, we know the art was is not what was planned that much, but I still think everyone was wrong on this. I think the issue was it 4 or 3 that just came out. Three
Three.
blew my pants off. Thank God my camera's shoulder up, because that was like, oh, I get it now. I see what Aaron's doing here.
It is issue 3 of Absolute Superman might be the best individual issue of the Absolute line thus far. Incredible origin for Superman, for this new iteration of the character, for his family, his journey to Earth. All of those things were special, they were interesting, they were compelling, they were dynamic, they were unique. It feels like a revelation for Superman, a character that I think, like Wonder Woman, is desperately in need of a different lens, a different angle to him. You know, um, Everything Jason is doing is working, and I'm really excited for the future of this book. I would say I'm more excited for the future of Absolute Superman than either of the other books.
Mm.
Absolute Batman, I'm loving the quality of it, but I feel like I can see where it's going and I'm good with it. I'm happy with it. But story wise, it feels like a pretty straight line. I'm happy to be wrong about that if I am. Absolute Superman, though, I can't tell you where it's going. I can't tell you if his parents are alive or dead. I can't tell you what killed them. I can't tell you what's going to happen with Brainiac. Where is there a Lex Luthor? Are we going to see all that? Like, there's so many question marks still that I'm happy to have.
That's your favorite book at the moment, the absolute Superman.
No, Absolute Batman is.
Okay.
It's just that Absolute Superman feels like the most open to tremendous differences. Like we already got introduced to Barbara Ann Minerva. She's probably gonna be Cheetah. We're gonna do the same old song and dance. Steve Trevor. I feel the way that people feel about Paul. I feel that about Steve Trevor. That man
Yo,
needs to go away.
yo, Paul's the new Venom, bro.
That would suck.
Oh man, I have a theory on that Venom, but I guess we'll talk about it never. Um, Superman is great. Your silhouette, said Jason Aaron. I owe you an apology. I wasn't familiar with your game. I know
There
that's
you
like
go.
a meme copy pasta at this point, but yeah, because Jason Aaron had done one of the Superman All Stars runs. It was the Bizarro one, right? He did the Bizarro with the Gem World and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Magic Bizarro. And I was like, oh, that's fine. But it felt like just Superman, just another Superman story in a line. So getting him on this book, I'm like, all right, fine. It'll be serviceable. I was wrong. This shit's good. It is making some interesting, meaningful changes to the Superman mythos, the Krypton mythos, his supporting cast, and just really kind of taking the idea of Superman as the savior of the people, of the and expanding upon that and making it a global thing rather than just a U.S. thing. That I think makes more sense in the world we live in today. That is interesting. It's revolutionary. And we still haven't even seen his whole power set yet. Like we don't even really know what the Superman's capable of. So I think that's where I agree with you, Sean. Like I'm really interested to see where this goes because it is a question mark all around.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Cole mentions Superman's so good. Excited to hear Jason Aaron talk about it on Tuesday. Yeah. Silhouette, you can apologize in person, man. Tune in. And for anybody else who has questions for Jason's throw on the topic of Superman, join the Discord, shoot us a message. There's in the announcements chat, I think we have people throwing some questions there. So let us know if you have anything that you want to hear from him. We'll try to get to as many as we can.
Absolutely. Uncaged says Wonder Woman introduces her mom, her lover, her current foes, her powers, her weapons. I don't know what you need in 3 issues, but I'm good right now. Yeah, but I feel like all that happened in like the first issue. I guess Steve Trevor was introduced in the second one, but um, all that happened, pretty early, and we're still in a place where she's gearing up to fight the Tetracide, and you know, the we're learning a lot about the character. It just feels like a slower burn than the other 2 books, and that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It could net out to be fucking incredible, and given the track record of the creators involved, I have literally no doubt that it will. But that's where I'm at with it at the current moment. Um, Ooh,
Paul,
Jay Sage dropping another 4.99 pound. Was a big New 52 and Earth One Soups fan and craving a modern take on Golden Age Superman. Absolute couldn't have come quicker. It's like Morrison's New 52 take.
hell yeah, glad you're having fun with it. And
Thank you, Jay.
I was gonna shout out the comment right before that from Paul Powerhouse Smith. Man, so much heat for us Pauls. Sorry, it's not you. You're one of the good ones.
You got to write to Zeb Wells on that one. That's
Yeah.
that's out of our pay grade there. Sorry.
Joe also asks, so far, who has the best backstory? Um,
Invisible Woman,
honestly,
Marvel Rivals. What are we talking about?
absolute line. I think Superman has it. I think his is the one that has deviated enough. And uh, to Sean's earlier point, I don't know where it can go. I can make guesses for Wonder Woman. I can make guesses for Superman. I mean, for Batman rather. But for Superman, I'm being teased out ideas that I'm plotting for because I don't have confidence in certain ways.
I definitely have to say Superman. I think Absolute Superman's origin is radical. You know, he ends up as Superman, but for what appears to be a very different reason than mainline. And the mission statements of Wonder Woman and Batman lean pretty close, and their origins lean well. Wonder Woman's is pretty meaningfully different. I just think that with Superman, there's so much up in the air, and his backstory feels rich. It honestly, like, they didn't do it, and I'm grateful for that, but it feels like you could have done a multi-part origin just on Superman's stuff,
Yeah.
and it would feel rich and compelling. So I gotta go with Superman.
Yeah, it's Superman for me too. If we're talking just backstory, it's Superman.
Yeah. Like Wonder Woman was raised in hell, as Karsten K points out. And that's interesting, but it's like, all right, she was raised in hell. What happened there? You know? It like those pieces were it's like an interesting fact about her, but we didn't see anything like crazy compelling about that.
Yeah, what does that
We
mean? Like
Right.
it
yeah.
is, and it's cool that it is, but what does that mean going
It,
forward?
she doesn't even necessarily feel hardened by that. Like it doesn't feel like she grew up in hell.
Well, I think part of it is like she grew up in hell and she still isn't hardened, and that's part of the character. But
Yeah.
again, that's subtle. It's quiet, which I enjoy about Absolute Wonder Woman because there are a lot of subtleties to it, uh, but it's not radically different.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
to that even, right? Like they gave, if anything, in that explanation of the origin, they gave us more of the things that were familiar about her. They gave her like confirmations of this is the kind person that she is. This is the truthful person that she is, the compassionate person that she is. So, yeah, the hell aspect of it hasn't changed her trajectory.
Matthew Price says, so far, would you say Absolute and All In has been more successful than the New 52? That is a good question. Creatively, yes. And I say that because the creators are happy. Ostensibly, they are happy with what they're doing. It's creatively driven. And I think it's less hell for DC behind the scenes. It's less unwieldy, right? Financially, obviously, there's no way to compare. It's 3 books. Well, you did say you said All In as well. So, um, no, no, financially, no, definitely not. It's not possible. Those were all new number ones. It's a different beast. Creatively, yes. Financially, no.
I think we need more time.
That's where I'm
Um,
at.
I,
Yeah.
I, I don't think we'll hit the same financial goal because of the sheer length and volume of New 52. But I think on a creative end, we're starting out strong. We're starting out maybe stronger for some of the titles that initially happened on the New 52 end. But um, it could take a left turn. I don't expect it to. I don't think it will. Um, and we still have supposedly 2 years worth of storytelling after this, or as has been teased out by some. So, um, as of right now, I'm seeing that it's on a great trajectory.
Yeah, get back to us in a year. I think that's a more safer comparison once we're a year in. Because a year in, think about all the stuff DC like canceled and how storylines were a little confusing. Um, I think it's too soon to really make that comparison.
Gore Vidal says New 52 brought in many new readers to comics. I don't think Absolute and Ultimate have done that. I mean, not at the scale, but again, they're not operating at the same scale. Like the thing you got to understand about the New 52 is that, it worked in the sense that it brought in people to the fold, but it also alienated a lot of people. It also turned a lot of people off because for some books within the first issue was clear that it was trash.
Mm.
And not only that, Ultimate and Absolute are an alternative. New 52, you had no alternative. This is the books you had. Either eat this or don't. So it being an alternative means it doesn't have to be for everyone, and by design, it's that it's they're different by design.
And I think that's the anecdote that needs to be thought of is you have an option here. So these books become supplemental to mainline. So are you bringing new people into the fold? Likely not, because the people who are reading it already have the weekly grind, already know what they're picking up. Um, but anecdotally for us and for our community, a lot of people have been getting their start here. It has been a way to get into the world in an without the same kind of baggage. But I think the more direct translation is DC has been able, Marvel has been able to sell an extra book to an already activated reader more than they've brought in people into the fold. Because to Tyler's point, New 52, you had no option. So either you loved it or hated it and loved it enough that you're like, I'm going to stick around. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah. From a sales standpoint, we'll have to check in a couple years because the sales of New 52 were hot for the first 2 years. And then, we saw where it went. I want to say this, like I love the New 52, warts and all. I think it was awesome. I'm not into the bash fest about it, but I do think that, when you hear the creators talk, the biggest thing that sticks out is that they weren't happy and that the behind the scenes elements made it really difficult to tell great stories. And that is not the case here. So cutting through everything else, that fact alone, to me, makes it pretty easy to prognosticate that this will end up being a pretty successful venture for DC Comics. Um, Final judgments. Like where do you guys stand on which you prefer? Which line is doing it better? Which line is more exciting to you? And, where's your heart at?
So I think it's a little unfair to compare the two, even though we are, because one has been running for a year and the other one's only been running for a couple months. That being said, even 3 months into the Ultimate line, I was a little wishy washy on some of the titles. Um, Absolute, I'm all in on all the books they have out so far. So for me, a perennial Marvel guy, I'm all in on Absolute. I think it is more creative driven. I think there's different flavors there, and I think they're allowed to cook the way they want to cook. If you talk about pacing, like Batman's pace differently than Wonder Woman's pace, than Superman's pace, they're not hampered by any kind of line wide gimmick. So it lets the creators just do what they need to do the storytelling of their book. And I think that's just more appealing to me.
I'm I share exactly what your sentiment, Tyler. I think the only thing to add would be when it comes to how I feel about how excited I am about one of the universe's futures, it's more absolute. I think there's a lot more potential. I'm excited for the book announcements. Flash, Martian Manhunter in particular. That's I on that alone, my little mind has been being just blown. But Ultimate Wolverine, that doesn't have heat for me, and that's the next big book, big push that they're doing. I'm sure it'll be good. I'm expecting a strong creative team, and so I'll read it and judge it fairly. But the compared to how much fervor I have for DC and the Absolute over Marvel and the Ultimate line, yeah, I'm saying DC for me.
Uh, I think individual issue wise, my answer is absolute. Issue to issue, the absolute books are just so compelling. They're so exciting, so interesting. I'm so curious to see how things unfold. These radical origins in some ways, new relationships between characters. I'm really enjoying all that stuff. And pound for pound, I just think the creative teams are more interesting to me. And that is a huge differentiator On the Ultimate side of things, Ultimates is my favorite book of everything we're talking about. It's my favorite book of anything in comics. But the other books individually, I'm not in love with. And I have some question marks about how much I like some of them at all.
Mm.
The overall story of the Ultimate Universe, though, I am hook, line, and sinker on. I can't fucking wait to get to the Maker's return and everything that's going to unfold with that. Ultimate Wolverine is exciting to me. The fact that we don't know what additional Ultimate books we're going to get, if we're going to get any, is exciting to me because it feels like the door's wide open. So it's individual books, I'm going absolute. Overall story, I'm going ultimate line. And so I guess I'm cheating a little bit. If I had to commit to a specific answer, if you put a gun to my head and said choose,
I know what it is. Energon.
it's the what's that fucking Nason verse
Oh, mice from Mars or
with the
biker
biker mice from
mice.
Mars and
Yeah,
street sharks and all that
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
No, I would have to go absolute.
the microist of microlines.
I would have to go absolute. Because the books are just so exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, 3 issues deep, and I'm like, this hype for these books. There's something there that's working for me that I'm excited about each and every week, and I hope that feeling continues. And then we know about Absolute Flash, which looks exciting. Jeff Lemire. We know about Absolute Martian Manhunter, Dennis Camp, Javier Rodriguez. We know about Janoy Lindsay and Al Ewing on Green Lantern. So the future of those books is really exciting as well. Um, but you
Is
know what? Go ahead, Marco.
is there one? Was there one of those books you're looking forward to the most?
Green Lantern.
Martian Manhunter for me. My favorite books.
Yeah,
Ultimates. Dennis Camp. He be cooking.
yeah, I'm there with you. That, then, yeah, that, then Green Lantern, then Flash.
The best part about it though, because you guys voted, a lot of you voted. That is definitely the most votes we have ever gotten in the live poll. Thank you for that. And we asked you, Ultimate Absolute Universe versus Ultimate Marvel. 66% of you said you are absolutely all in on Absolute. 33% of you said make mine Ultimate Marvel. So that is a massive, massive landslide victory for the DC side of things.
I cannot believe how slighted we've been. Slighted. A Marvel podcast? DC winning? What is wrong with you people?
Wow. Well, I'll say this. Ultimately, we are absolutely blessed to be getting such fire comics each and every single week. I don't know if I've ever enjoyed both Marvel and DC at the same time this much. And the biggest reason for that is these two micro lines. I think they have cracked the code. I think they have figured out a way to have their cake and eat it too. And I can only imagine that is Jim Lee and Tom Brevoort are swimming in their homes. They actually just jump into a pile of cash and then swim in them because of how much money they are raking in with these two micro lines alone. They've hit on something.
I'm not sure how much buoyancy paper has, but I could see it happening.
Hey man. Why don't you rap for a second? I'm putting up another poll.
I mean, the other as we think about this and talk about this, I started thinking about the inverse too. Like when you look at the sales charts and all the top books are absolute DC, Ultimate Marvel. It makes me wonder, like, what are they doing with main lines too? Why are the main lines? I mean, this is probably a whole different discussion, honestly. But what can the main lines do to kind of take some of that, spark? Or does it become that like this becomes so popular, this becomes the main line down the line? The Absolute books keep coming out and they keep doing well. Absolute Martian Manhunter does better than any Martian Manhunter book has ever done before. That's not saying much. Absolute Flash maybe does better than any Flash book has done before. What does that say? Like if these lines become micro and they start getting macro, does it sunset other things? I don't know. There could be a line in the future where these things are just very, very successful.
So you're saying like in terms of what lesson does mainline learn, or does it instead lean more heavily into the absolute?
I'm saying two things. I'm saying what lessons can the mainline learn that they can take and make their books more appealing, or or do these micro lines become the main lines because they get so successful?
Yeah.
But I think that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe that's more of a peak to another week.
Yeah. I think we can definitely have a big conversation about that in the future. So I'll make a note of it. We'll put a pin in it. But clearly there's a lot to talk about when it comes to these lines. Clearly you guys are very excited about these lines. I love the engagement. I love how many of you are here right now, how many of you have been here the entire time. Thank you so much for that. We are far from done. We are far from done. We have a lot more on the docket to get into today. We have to talk about our top 5 Spider-Man villains. We still got that to go. We're doing our number 3 and our number 2 today. So make sure you guys are ready with those. And we've got some news. Ram V has a new book.
Holy shit.
Coming
New Gods,
out at
right?
DC.
New Gods. Didn't it just come out?
A new book.
Oh. Okay.
Oh,
Who picked Ram V, by the way? Was it Cale that picked Ram V for the
You said it had to
breakout?
be like some kind of event or crossover or
like outstanding indie.
the New Gods line becomes a line.
Right.
Yeah. So
This isn't that, but it is still a feather potentially in Ram's cap. So we'll be talking about that, and we've got we're also going to be getting into a book that was announced and then instantly canceled for some reason from Philip Kennedy Johnson, and Marvel allegedly, supposedly, potentially looking to recast T'Challa.
Oh, I think Chillmonger just entered the chat.
Oh no.
So keep rocking with us. We've got a lot more to get into here. I asked you there's a poll up right now. I want to give you guys a few more moments to answer it. Which upcoming Absolute book are you most excited for? Green Lantern, Flash, or Martian Manhunter? What is your answer? Make sure you vote. Incendies Productions says, well, U.S.M told Marvel unequivocally what they could do for 616 Spidey, but they don't want to listen. But isn't that the beauty of Ultimate Spider-Man? Right? Like, isn't the beauty of the book that it exists and is allowed to do things that mainline can't do? I feel like that's it right there. Like that's the hook of that book. If mainline Spider-Man gave you everything you wanted or think you want, then Ultimate Spider-Man wouldn't have a reason to exist. So I'm firmly in the camp of Marvel hasn't done anything wrong with mainline Spider-Man. And I haven't heard anything to shake me off that perch. But yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and end that poll, actually. And you guys say Green Lantern. Green Lantern with 37%, Flash with 31%, and Martian Manhunter with 31%. So pretty close.
Yeah, that's almost right down the middle.
lot of hype there.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Right down the triangle.
Incendies follows up. Mainline can do that though. They just don't want to. That's the problem. I don't think it's a problem.
And I don't think they can do it either.
Yep. Yeah.
I think people have their desire for what they want from Spider-Man, but you have to consider that like these books are printed for people more for more people than just, the royal you.
And it's also an IP that they need to maintain a status quo with to
Yeah.
align with other media.
Yeah. Hey, dude, I'm with you. Like Incendies, I'm with you in the sense of feel free to agree to disagree. There are a lot of people who say that. He says 616 Peter Parker's been dead to me since 2007. It's a hard line. I get it. I don't feel that way. I think we make too much about One More Day. But if
Oh,
anyone says they can't move on from it, like that's your prerogative. I'm not. It's cool. It's totally cool. Um,
I feel like it's a version of Spider-Man.
right.
Like that's what comics boil down to is what is your version of Spider-Man, and then if that version does not exist, how palatable is the next version?
Totally. 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 I want to reiterate a couple things right now. A is that Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we will be joined by the mighty Jason Aaron, who's going to come on and talk to us about Absolute Superman. I'm going to try to dig into the process of how the Absolute line came together from his perspective. We're going to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Bug Wars, which is his upcoming book. All that jazz we'll get into with him Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then also, Pals Pulls is on Friday this week because I'm going to be guest starring on the Near Mint Condition podcast. We're going to talk about their Evergreen series. We're going to do an Evergreen topic. I don't want to spoil the topic just in case they've got a way they want to announce it, but we are going to be represented over there. Join our Discord server. Marco just posted a link to that if you want to click that to extend the conversations that we have here on our Discord server. We are global 24/7. You ever heard of the 24/7 news cycle? We've got the 24/7 conversation cycle on our Discord server.
24/7 pal cycle.
It's global too, so there's somebody online at all times.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
it's always funny to see like what groups of people kind of interact at what times of the day. Like Ted is always, for my time zone, he's always there like 1 a.m., 3 a.m., that kind of thing. Uh, Manny wakes up early. Amin's in there, and a lot of these people are on the Patreon too. So like they're really here supporting the community.
Thanks to Madness for deciding to join. That was pretty quick. Love to see that. Join the Discord server. Um, Also want to make it known again that patreon.com/the comics pals is the best way to support the channel if you are so inclined. We give you a lot of bang for your buck. So many of you have chosen to do that. Join us over the last few weeks. Really, really appreciate it. We give you an exclusive podcast every week that nobody else gets to hear. You get a newsletter from one of us each week. You get to vote in the book club poll. We're going to talk about that in just a second. There's so many perks that we give you. By my estimation, we have the best Patreon in the space. I feel comfortable saying that. We've worked really hard to make sure that's the case, and we try to give you as much as we can for your support. So check us out at patreon.com/the comics pals. On the subject of the book club, we have arrived at a final four for Spider-Man month. That's super exciting. We've chosen to discuss the Wall Crawler, uh, arguably the most popular superhero outside of Batman in the world, in the history of the world. And these are the four books that you guys chose: Ultimate Spider-Man, Kraven's Last Hunt, Superior Spider-Man, and The Amazing Spider-Man by J. Michael Straczynski. Currently,
What is it?
currently, Superior is the superior book. It is,
Really?
yeah, it's winning 41%.
Yo,
This
I am excited for that. That's something that I've been meaning to read just based off of Cale's recommendation where it nets out. Hyped. Yes, please. Make us read it.
and you've avoided it, Sean. You've not read it.
Absolutely right. I was not somebody who wanted that to happen, Superior. And I protested with my wallet. I didn't jump on Twitter and threaten Dan Slott's life. I just decided to take a powder for a couple years, and then I was back and happy. Now look, anybody who is a member of our Patreon at any tier can cast their vote. So I want to see you guys jump on this. We've got 29 votes right now. I know we can do way better. Whatever wins. I personally want to read Ultimate Spider-Man, but I don't care. As long as you vote and your vote is heard, I'm happy with the result. So go and vote. Make sure you cast your vote. Incendies Production says, I've been protesting with my wallet since 2007. That is what you do. That's what you do. I love that. I love that approach.
I'm if Superior does win, I'm going to be really interested to see your take on it.
Look, I'm at the point where it's probably good. Enough people have said it's good whose opinions I respect. Tyler's talked about it. I believe Cale has talked about it. A lot of people in the Discord. I'm not saying, hey, you guys are all wrong because Doc Ock is Spider-Man. You're probably right. And so I am at the point in my life where if it wins, I'll read it happily and I'll judge it as fairly as I can. So those are the four options. Speaking of the wall crawler, though, it is time for us to get into our top 5 Spider-Man villains, number 3 and number dos. Marco, kick us off.
Number 3 is Doc Ock. I love the character. The when I was not as familiar with the comics or with Spider-Man in general as a property, that second movie, the live action, Tobey Maguire, that helped solidify that character in my mind outside of something like video games. And I love the idea, a scientist brought over the edge. I'm a nerd for that kind of shit. And so, uh, for me, I felt like I resonated with his plight. We can make science do good. And then, as is inevitable, we get too close to the sun and something goes wrong. Spider-Man has to come in and stop it. So that as a framing is so much fun for me. And yeah, I really like the power set. There's a character in the Spirit called the Octopus. That the concept of like 8 arms and this extended thing is really interesting to me.
You like watching a lot of octopus stuff, huh?
Yeah, Octipodes, the
Tentacle
other
gang.
yeah, gang. And then my number two is Venom. Dun. Um,
Oh,
he's just rad, you know. I remember again the Spider-Man video game, but the Ultimate Spider-Man video game, and being able to play as Venom, that kicked ass. And one of my first introductions to the character. So, for me, it comes from media outside of Spider-Man. Those are my first touch points with the character. And I really enjoy the aesthetic. I enjoy the implications of like the black suit and how that relates to Venom. The characters that then encompass who Venom is and how they lean into him. Poorly represented in the films, but um, I think the essence of the character as an antagonist to Spider-Man is really cool.
I'll go because mine is exactly the same as Marco, just in reverse. I have at number 3 Venom. Venom. I can't not hear the shitty Eminem song. Venom's cool. So when I say Venom, I think there's a lot of things involved here. Because with Venom, you get it's sort of tied into the black suit as well, because it's the symbiote. Even though the black suit was designed by a child who won a contest for Secret Wars, it was given like I don't know $8 or something for it. And then the symbiotes switched them. I couldn't count the amount of symbiotes that are out there. But Venom is just a cool character. I am a fan of Venom in its current era where he really is kind of an anti-hero. I like the evolution of it. I like the evolution of Eddie Brock. I think it's rare that you actually see evolutions of characters, and demonstrable change. So I think it's really interesting. I think Eddie Brock is a great character, but Venom, it also means the Flash Thompson era of Venom, the Mac Gargan era of Venom, which are all wildly different. So I think Venom has been giving me a lot of flavors throughout the years that I just think it's a really cool character. Number two is Doc Ock. Doc Ock is really kind of upped his cachet within the last century. This 2000 onwards. Kind of a joke character, a bit where it's like, all right, just knock out his arms and he can't do anything. He's just a nerd at that point. But I think his superior intellect is really what people have honed in on, and that he is smarter than Peter Parker, but he has an ego that ruins him. And it's just the classic, like mad scientist story. And I think, especially with Superior, there's some real character work there that made him likable, understandable. I think Alfred Molina's take on him in Spider-Man 2 and No Way Home also added that, like tragedy aspect to it. It's Jekyll and Hyde. It's the doctor, it's ego versus id. There's just a lot of good stuff there that I think plays really well against Peter Parker, not necessarily against Spider-Man, but like Peter Parker specifically. There's a lot of fun there. Spider-Man, the first video game, the PlayStation era, real good take on Doc Ock. So I just think it's a great character.
Hell yes. I also want to say hell yes to Roger Hernandez, who shares that update from last week. I got that job. If you heard last week's show,
Hey,
you might have heard that Roger was going into an interview, I think, the same day we are doing the show, and he got the job. Congratulations. That's huge. Make that money, boy.
The old Comics Pals rub. No, that's all you. That's all you.
Well done, dude. Um, so for me, my number three is Mr. Negative. Now, that is probably the most recent created character that any of us have on our list. Mr. Negative comes from, the Dan Slott run, early on in the run, actually. And I really, really, really love this character. He's got you talk about like Jekyll and Hyde. He's kind of got that going on where, by day he's Martin Lin and he's a successful businessman and he's running this community group center, and Aunt May works there, and it's this really great thing. And then, but behind the scenes, he's this monstrous Mr. Negative who's got an army with him who's terrorizing New York. It reminds me a little bit of like the old school relationship between Peter Parker and Norman Osborn slash Green Goblin, where on one hand, Martin Lee is an ally, he's a resource, he's a mentor to Peter. But on the other hand, Mr. Negative is a menace that Peter has to stop. And there's tragedy there, there's, emotion there. I really, really love his story. And not to mention, in the PS4 Spider-Man game, he's one of the primary antagonists, and it was a great turn. I am dying to see Mr. Negative on the big screen. I would love to see him be the villain of Spider-Man 4. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think he deserves a shot. Great character. My number two, this is really tough, but my number two is actually going to be Green Goblin, if you can believe that.
Wow, I was expecting a sweep at the end here. Interesting.
Yeah. I'm going with Green Goblin. I love the Green Goblin. Green Goblin is fantastic. Norman Osborn, even Harry. I think the legacy of that character and the way that that character has been utilized throughout the years as Spider-Man's tormentor has been phenomenal. One of the best rivalries that has ever existed in comics, especially being able to maintain the juice over so many years. Um, I think that there have been great Green Goblin stories told. Obviously, the first movie, the first Spider-Man movie, Willem Dafoe, that's the definitive Green Goblin to me. Um, and then he killed Gwen Stacy. Like, that's the ultimate, like getting their lick in that any villain has ever gotten in on a hero, I think. And that, that belongs to the Green Goblin. You can't, he's got the feats, he's cool, he's got a great costume and a defining, enduring costume. And that cackle, man. Who can beat that cackle? I think Green Goblin is one of the best villains ever created. But for me, in this case, he's number two.
Damn. So number
Man,
one,
now I'm
White
curious.
Rabbit for the thickums.
It's number one, Paul.
Number one, fucking Moreland. Big wheel. Nah. Joe says my top Spider-Man villains are Aunt May with her nagging, MJ that breaks his heart because she's selfish. Lastly, Sony because they are keeping my boy hostage.
Damn.
Well, spoiler alert, Sony is my number one. So there you go.
It's your
I mean,
number one because you loved sifting through those leaks.
The Sony hack's my favorite.
Izzy's issues. He's got the feats. Yo, not the trajectory we're aiming for.
Not
Self-report, bud.
although he does wear those little, I don't even know how to say those flimsy little booties with the upturn.
Oh
They're like the
yeah, yeah.
jester
They look like
shoes.
slippers.
Yeah.
Why'd they take away his magic fingers? Remember he used to be able to shoot like blasts from his fingers?
They technologicalized Green Goblin too much. That's not a word, but like they added too much tech to his costume. Like I just liked him. He was
Yeah.
just a madman in a Spirit Halloween costume, throwing bombs at people, and just like stabbing people with his glider. Like I like a visceral Green Goblin, who's just like really just a guy who is insane.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my
Wha-
favorite. My favorite. We'll get to. I mean, I don't want to spoil next week, but you know that one panel from Thunderbolts where Norman Osborn's sitting in the stall.
Oh my
And
god.
they got the Green Goblin mask, and he's like, "I'm coming out." Love it, so good.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it to you. I'll let you do that rap next week, but
It might not be Green Goblin. It's the
yeah. It's shocker.
hey, two in the pink.
Shocker, shocker.
Ben loudly said, "Seems like being a Spidey fan these days requires therapy sessions. Some Spider-Man fans do need to go to therapy, yes. Some of us need to let go of our anger about the past. There are people who are hung up on a storyline that happened literally 18 years ago. Do you know what has happened in 18 years for you to still be mad about something that happened to a fictional character?
One more day can vote.
One
Duh.
more day can vote. One more day could have a child named May Parker. One more day could be a parent. One more day could have died in Iraq.
Damn.
And
Yo,
yet,
let her, let her go, bro. You're down bad. Let her go.
oh man, fun, fun, fun. All right, so next week we're gonna deliver our number ones. So tune in for that. I didn't see enough of you guys sharing your favorites. CW Gordon dropped Silver Sable, Goblin Queen, White Rabbit, Black Cat, Electro. Assuming you're talking about Electro's daughter or whatever,
It's
I
actually
see the
his
vision.
ex-girlfriend or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yo, shout out to Steve Canaris. Vulture's underrated. He was on mine.
Yeah, Vulture's sick. Vulture's sick. Notably, would have been the villain of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4. I wish we had gotten that. Uh, Electric says, "The pals, please before you ending the segment, can you tell us again the countdown of yours so far?" Okay, fair enough. So mine is uh fuck, I just deleted it. Hobgoblin, I can get it back. I went for
Control
Hobgoblin,
Z.
Electro, Hobgoblin, Mr. Negative, and Green Goblin.
My number 5 is Mysterio. Number 4, Craven. Number 3, Venom. Number 2, Doctor Octopus.
Has Shocker, Vulture, um, oh my god, I literally just said it. Doc Ock and Venom.
I'm
Sick.
still flabbergasted you started off with Shocker in top 5.
Dude, he's great.
Shocker
He's
only
great.
belongs on a list of top 5 worst villains.
He's cool, man.
He wears a quilt.
It's insulation. They
Wow.
thought it through.
Brian Atkins says, I'm still mad about the main event of Starcade 97. Brother, I'm with you. I am with you. They ruined it. They ruined it. The fast count that wasn't. I'm all about it, brother. Steve Canara says, Vulture, Hobgoblin, Rhino, Lizard, and Sandman. You are a man after Sam Raimi's heart.
Silhouette's like, the fuck did Vulture do?
Yo, my dude flies. You don't remember that level in Spider-Man? You gotta go up the whole
But
like.
my favorite thing
building.
at Marco's list is dependent on Spider-Man and media that isn't comics.
Yeah,
Well, that makes sense for Marco. What's his
Yeah.
experience with Spider-Man?
it's just the games.
Joe says, off topic question. What do you think of Monday Night Raw debut on Netflix? That is off topic, but we can address it real quick. I thought it was excellent. It was definitely a media show. It was not a traditional episode of Raw, but it did feel like a mini Mania in a way. And big matches that I thought delivered and felt like an epic show. I can't wait to see them get more into the episodic weekly drama and soap opera of Raw, though.
It was a little too pat myself on the back. Let's show off all these executives. For me, let's see how Monday is. Give Dakota Kai that belt. That's all I'm going to say.
I just looked back at my list. Brad Atkins is right. My number 5 was Morbius. I had that scratched off on the list that I was referencing.
Oh, it's even worse.
That is crazy.
The
Shocker was
cartoon.
better. In the cartoon, Morbius was fucking garbage, bro. He had plasma fingers
Yeah.
because they wouldn't let him be a real vampire.
Yeah, dude.
What
I
was
love
that? What
that
was
shit.
his girl's name that he always be screaming out?
Wasn't it? Was it
Felicia.
Yeah.
It was always like off in the distance. Felicia.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Samuel Summers says Ultimate Green Goblin, Ultimate Doc Ock, Mainline Green Goblin, Mainline Doc Ock, Kingpin. Damn. So that's actually only 3 villains, but hey, fair enough. All right, let's get into the news piece of the program. Rom V is hitting us off again. He just hit us off last month with New Gods. He's coming back with the re-up for Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma. It's going to be a 6-issue prestige series written by Ram V, as I said, with Anand RK. They're going to team up. I don't know jack shit about the Resurrection Man at all, actually. I can't think of a time when I've really seen the character. He had a New 52 series, but Resurrection Man is just one of those guys that I know nothing about, which makes a lot of sense because when Ram V came on this podcast, he said that the character was somebody that was so obscure that DC had to look and say, "Wait, do we even own the rights?" I'm a little bit fuzzy on that. Like, would DC really not know they own Resurrection Man?
Depends on the editor.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the character.
Somebody wrote in the chat Resurrection Man when we were interviewing him. Like our chat called out both of the books that he was doing when we interviewed him: New Gods
Yeah.
and Resurrection Man.
New Gods was like the worst kept secret in comics.
Yeah.
But someone definitely said Resurrection Man, and one of us definitely called it out,
Yeah.
and Rom responded accordingly. But
Good poker face for sure.
Yeah.
This is a prestige format too, so they're gonna be the Batman Damned style paper. Because when I got the cover image for this, it was a more square image, so I'm wondering if it's the bigger style.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure prestige format tends to mean that, and
Yeah.
this is a Black Label book.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that makes sense.
I'm cool with it. It's Romby playing in a relatively open sandbox. Resurrection Man, he dies, he comes back to life. That's
And
his premise.
relatively newer character. First appearance 97.
Where what book?
A Resurrection Man #1.
Okay, this would have been the
Wow.
Vertigo
Yeah,
book, I'm guessing then,
and
right?
Andy Lanning, Dan Abnett, Jackson
Oh,
Geese. Doesn't necessarily say Vertigo, but just DC in general. Yeah, I mean this is interesting. I'm not as familiar with the character. I've heard of him because he's one of those like doesn't die people, so he kind of I guess interacts with Vandal and I have here the Immortal Man. I'm not familiar with, so it's interesting that he's going to pick this character. What I'm more interested in is the subtitle, Quantum Karma. Rambi is a very intelligent person. Karma to me speaks of different religious beliefs, some Hinduism involved, and then quantum, uh, from a science perspective, is really interesting. Like what does that mean when as you die you have no energy? How do you resurrect from nothing? How does that break the laws of physics potentially? Maybe I'm reading into it, but those two words are the more interesting part for Resurrection Man for me. And uh, Anand RK, incredible artist. Ram, great writer. Mike, awesome colorer. Aditya Bidikar on letters. This is a stacked, stellar team. So I'm putting my full trust into these creators.
Damn, Marco, I think you sold me.
Hell yeah.
Because Rom is phenomenal. Like, I'm a big fan of Rom. No connection to Resurrection Man, but what you just laid out, that actually sounds really interesting. Rom V's interpretation and impression of the idea of resurrection, the idea of, how does resurrection break the laws of physics? That's really compelling. So, I'll be seated either way, but now I'll be seated happily. It's worth pointing out that they're going to be joined by Mike Spicer on colors, and Rom and Spicer, no strangers to each other. They work together on the Swamp Thing, so that's exciting. Aditya Bidikar, regular collaborator of Rom's on the letters, and then Jackson Geis, who is the one of the co-creators of Mitch Shelley, aka Resurrection Man, will be doing some interior synopsis pages for the book.
that's really
Um,
cool.
Sorry?
That's really cool because he's the original artist.
Yeah.
The
Interesting. Huh.
you know, some of these pages, by the way, are sick. There's
Yeah.
this one of he's just coming off the ground, and it's he's just like forming. There's this sigil across his chest that I'm sure is gonna play into something, and he grows from this decrepit old man, this body, into a formed human. Beautiful.
Yeah, the preview material is incredible. I can't wait to see what this looks like, when we get it in our hands. This is hype. This is definitely hype. And Cole points out accurately, Ram V and Anand RK's previous books, Gravity's Wall and Blue and Green, are excellent. I am sold. Yeah, totally.
Graffiti Wall in particular, highly recommend for anybody who is not familiar with Anand's work. That was one of the first books that he worked on with Ram V, and Ram also does really cool stuff, just telling very small, intimate stories about Mumbai.
And
Sick.
and that's a almost ties into the theme of this quantum bit that's in this Resurrection Man. Like I think the sigil on his chest almost looks like a quantum loop, and the
Oh yeah,
idea that this is the idea of a quantum loop deals with the idea of space and time and how it's all one gravity well. I believe that's very basic stuff. Um, Interesting because Resurrection Man comes back from the dead no matter how he dies. So there's the idea of his matter gets recreated,
yes.
which breaks quantum
Yep.
theory. So he is an anomaly and something that should work pretty straightforward.
Yeah, a lot of potential for this one. It's gonna get wacky.
You guys seem pretty excited for this. I see the chat. You guys are really into it. I am too. We will definitely be reviewing this when it drops. Speaking of when it drops, this is dropping. This is dropping. Shit. When?
I don't see,
Let's see.
2nd of April.
Thank you. Polygon. Susanna Polo doing the reporting over there. They got the exclusive, and we will have this in our hands soon. Soon, soon, soon. April 2nd. Thank you to Bleeding Cool also for that. Speaking of Bleeding Cool, they are, among others, reporting that the Philip Kennedy Johnson book that we just got announced called Adventures of Superman Book of L, which we never talked about on here just because we've been busy, but it was announced. It was announced as coming out in March, is now canceled, and the book will be resolicited later in the year. So it's a little weird. It's a little odd that this would happen because they announced it so recently and then now it's being resolicited. Worth pointing out, this is PKJ and Scott Godlewski who did Future State House of L together. They're rejoining to do Book of L. So there's definitely a through line there. This is absolutely going to get into Olgren and all that. For those of you who've been excited for that stuff to resurrect post Action Comics, this is that book. Now, I believe that PKJ took to social media
Yeah, he did.
to clarify that this was going to be resolicited at a later time and that it's all good and it's coming out. But I just think it's bizarre that this happened.
What in his video, because I watched it, he pretty much says it wasn't supposed to be resolicited. That was the mistake. The solicit, there was they had changed things because they wanted to come out after the Superman movie. And I guess the dates were never updated on a spreadsheet somewhere. So this was never supposed to be solicited, and that was the issue. They plan on it's probably going to be the second half of the year, post James Gunn Superman, because I think they probably have the way PKJ mentioned it was like they have plans for Superman throughout the year, and it looks like thematically my tie-in with James Gunn's Superman, which really points towards that relaunch we were talking about, and they want to put this out after that starts rolling.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that makes a lot more sense to put that out, to put this book out closer to the release of the film later after its release than now. I love that timing. I mean, the argument could be made, given it's a 6-issue series, it'd be nice to have on shelves as a collected edition, but I don't know if it's going to operate on its own, considering it's tethered to the Action Comics stuff. So either way, I'm happy. A, we didn't talk about it before, so I wanted to talk about the book. But B, I'm happy that it is going to be something we can pick up and materialize. It's going to be great.
It continues all of his higher, more DC fantasy stuff. So cool from that end.
Hey,
Olgren and
Steve
all that.
Grez. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Steve Grez lighting the chat up. Good to see you, Steve. I haven't seen your name before. You're coming in hot. Says Rom V didn't like everyone sleeping on his Detective Comics run, so he's coming in hot in 2025. Agreed. And then also, weird PKJ came in with all these Superman plots and huge stories and just pieced out and went to Hulk, and that was that. Well, that's not exactly the way it unfolded. Unfortunately, he was booted from Action Comics. DC wanted to do Superman All Stars or Superstars, whatever it was called. And so they wanted to kick off 2024 with that stuff. And they needed to move forward. And that meant PKJ had to get the bump, but they weren't going to put him on Superman because Joshua Williamson was doing that. And so there just wasn't a place for him in that space. But now there is.
And some of the through lines did continue in his Green Lantern War Journal book.
Totally.
Which,
yes.
if you haven't checked out, definitely check out, because I think there's some key bits to the mythos that are in that book.
If the Olgren stuff is interesting to you, then that is the next book to follow. Totally. Yep. Next up on the docket is honestly something that could have been the main conversation piece today, but I just don't think our listeners are interested enough to sit with us for long form conversation about it. But it's something that's important to me, and so I felt like we needed to at least talk about it a little bit. And that is that it's being reported from Jeff Snyder, who is a well-known, Hollywood insider. He gets a lot of scoops and stuff like that. that Marvel is seriously considering and trying to find an actor to play T'Challa, the Black Panther, in their upcoming films. Now, Jeff Snyder said the following via the direct, according to CBR.com. He said, with Marvel reshuffling the deck in advance of Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and Robert Downey Jr. coming back, not as Iron Man, but as Doctor Doom, I'm told that the door is firmly open for T'Challa to be recast via the magic of the multiverse. I heard that an actor was actually offered the role this past fall, a couple of months after Downey's big reveal at Comic-Con, but they turned it down, not wanting to jeopardize their career momentum by stepping into Boseman's gigantic shoes, which may be too big to fill, even for Hollywood's most talented black actors. Now, we understand that Chadwick Boseman passed tragically a number of years ago to cancer. This was probably the most tragic death of an actor that I can personally think of. In my lifetime, that's how I feel. We lost a lot. I think the loss in terms of the character and what that character meant to black children, black boys, minority children is something that you can't understate. When you go back to 2018, 2017, when that movie was coming out, the ramp up, when it came out, and you look at the fact that teachers, schools were busing kids to theaters to watch it, some teachers out of their own pockets, the excitement level, the TikTok, not TikToks, but the memes and everything surrounding it, all the children who were excited. I think that that's a big deal. And we lost a lot. We lost a lot with the man as well. Chadwick Boseman, an amazing man by all accounts, tremendous actor, well respected, well regarded, not a bad word said. How rare is that? Someone in Hollywood. No one has a bad word to say about the man. Pretty rare. Marvel made the decision not to recast the character and to move forward with the story of Wakanda and everything else with Shuri taking on the mantle. At the end of the movie, they introduced Toussaint, who is the T'Child, so to speak. That is T'Challa's son. My feeling has always been that the loss of the character T'Challa is too great. And what he stands for is too big. The biggest black character they had, the main black representation in the MCU, cut down. That doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. I understand the decision. I understand that the decision was made by Ryan Coogler and his camp, and I respect that. He is the director. This was not Kevin Feige or any of the other executives that mandated it. This was what Ryan and the crew wanted to do. I can't say anything to that. I would think it was wrong if they told Ryan Coogler, look, man, you and your team have to move on from how you feel, and you got to recast. That would have been a hard pill to swallow, and Marvel probably would have been wrong for that.
And the alternative is to get someone else to do the movie too, which they can't really do.
That would have been fucked up too.
Yeah.
But I think, and I'll stop talking here in a moment. I think the time is right to bring that character back. You can't replace Chadwick in terms of what he brought, the presence, the excellence, everything else. But there are a lot of people, children, but adults too, who need to see that. They need to see that character on screen. And Shuri is great, and I understand that also means a lot to a lot of people as well. Black girls. But we need T'Challa back. We need that man back. It'll never mean what it meant, but it will mean a lot to see him back. And I think the time is now.
I was always of the mind to recast. I think it was, to your point, a matter of time to have the conversation, but when the news happened, that was my first one of my first thoughts is okay, now they're gonna have to figure out who's gonna play this character and how to do that gracefully. Um, but I agree that I think the mantle is an important piece not only to the people who watch the MCU, the people who interact with Marvel, um, but you're right that it's an impression. It's impression on a number of kids, on the idea of superheroes in general being expanded, coming from different places, looking like different faces, and so I think that's more important. You know, I was worried about the people who were like, "Oh, that's it. You retire it the way you retire a jersey," and I don't agree with that sentiment. I think uh, Chadwick will be forever in our hearts and memory as Black Panther, but um, the fight goes on like any kind of leader.
For me, with this, what I'm getting out of this is that Marvel, not they're in panic mode, but they do seem a little uneasy on their planning right now. It felt like a little break glass in case of emergency, bringing RDJ back as Doctor Doom. We didn't talk about it on the show because we don't really cover too much movie news, but Chris Evans will be back as well in Secret Wars. As who, we don't know. Um, and I think I saw even a rumor that Scarlett Johansson is rumored to be coming back as well. Um, so they seem to be wanting to regain the momentum they had coming out of Infinity War that COVID and a bunch of movies might have lost. And Black Panther was a huge part of that momentum. Right before Infinity War, Black Panther was a cultural reset moment. That Wakanda Forever didn't gather. Wakanda Forever is a oddity of a movie. I think it's really a mourning phase for an actor in movie form, and then had to also try and be a movie at the same time. Um, but I think they're trying to find that fire again, and a lot of it is going back to the well. But I think stuff like this, like I think it is time maybe we talk about recasting. I don't know why they're so scared of recasting Kang either. You know, like it's maybe this could be the sign that like, all right, we can recast. People can swallow that pill and see this character as the same character. And I think that's also important because X-Men's coming up, and there are a lot of those are essentially recastings. Wolverine might need to be recast. Cyclops might need to be recast in something. So I think this might be a bit of a litmus test to see what the audiences can handle for something like that. This will show whether or not Hugh Jackman needs to be Wolverine until he dies. So I think this could be a good test as well.
I mean, there is something to be said about, and I truly don't think there's anything malicious on Marvel's part. I really
Me
think that
neither.
um, everybody involved just had a tremendous amount of respect for Chadwick and his family. I think that's it. But there is something to be said about the fact that recastings have happened historically. These are comic book movies, right? And so, like, you know, the show goes on, and in comics, people don't stay dead. We just lost, unfortunately, the actor who was playing the Red Hulk, Thunderbolt Ross, and um, you know, they replaced him with Harrison Ford. We have had multiple actors in the MCU be recast historically. Red Skull was recast. War Machine, notably, was recast. Even the Hulk was recast. There shouldn't be anything different about this situation. And I think I get it for the first few years, but now's the time. Now is definitely the time. I know that there are people who disagree with that. That's cool. But that's how I feel.
And that's not to say Shuri can't exist either.
Of
Like
course.
Shuri can exist as a Black Panther as well. I mean, she's one of those young characters where they are building up a young team, so she could be a champion, a young Avenger, something like that.
She could be. I mean, I
Oh
would
yeah, yeah,
expect, let's say they bring him back in five, in Avengers 5, I would expect that she would still be suited up by Avengers 6 and they would
sure,
work together.
yeah.
Oh, sure. Or fight for a mantle type thing, because she's presumably.
I wouldn't want to make them fight. That seems wrong. Hey, brother, that just came back to from the dead. Let's have an
Let's fight to the
altercation.
death.
Yeah,
Well,
get
because it
that
seems
purple
like she's.
flower ready.
Well, because it seems like she's going down like a more dark path. She's
Oh,
being strayed.
it. The end of Wakanda Forever solidified she isn't.
Right.
I think that was her arc in the Wakanda Forever, and then by the end, she's like, okay, no, I am the Black Panther.
Yeah, I think that was the point of the movie. Like how she processes her grief
But
and anger.
man, T'Challa versus Namor, like I've always wanted to see that. And Namor fucking was rad in Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
And think about all the other interactions, right?
Reed,
T'Challa and Reed
yeah,
that we never got. Like there's so many relationships that
Doom,
he's in. Sorry, Doom.
Doom,
Yes.
yeah. T'Challa with the Infinity Gauntlet in Secret Wars,
Come on.
he's an integral part of Secret Wars. Like if they're gonna adapt that comic in a certain way. Damn, yeah,
Yeah.
I think we need him back.
Yeah. Yeah. Hecatron says, I don't have the reverence of representation, but I think these characters transcend the actors and creators at this point. They're part of our shared culture of stories. Yeah, I think it's something that you can understand regardless of the color of your skin or, where you hail from. I think, anyone could have loved Chadwick's performance. Anyone could love the Black Panther. And so why should we be deprived of that character? I don't think there's a great reason why. Especially because again, there are examples of people who have been replaced. Eric Carter says, I get the emotional side to it. That said, I'm of the belief if there's more story for that character, you have to recast. We can't keep melding actors to characters.
And there's a beneficial part to Marvel and Disney too, where they can get a younger actor that can do this longer.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the thing.
Yep. The door's open.
Yeah.
Coleman Domingo is a great black actor. I don't know what they have planned for him. I know he's going to be a part of the MCU. That could be a consideration. I don't know.
I watched Sing Sing last week, which he stars in. Phenomenal movie. I highly recommend it.
And he's a good actor.
Oh, he's a great actor.
Okay.
Yeah, which almost like he's too good to be in the MCU. like he's like a craft actor. He's like does Shakespeare in this movie. You know what I mean? Like he's a little older though, so maybe that
Okay.
might not be what they're looking for because he's probably older than what Chadwick Boseman would have been.
How? Go ahead.
Coleman?
I can look it up, but he is an older gentleman.
You guys are still talking about Coleman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 55. I looked that up.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. I didn't know that. Fair enough.
I mean-
Way older. Yeah.
John Boyega always comes as a guy like that Marvel never really capitalized on as an actor, but he did get kind of stiffed at for Star Wars and Lucasfilm, so he might not want it.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the guy they're talking about who declined.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
Cole said John Kent age up T'Challa's son to be a 30-year-old man in a multiverse pocket or some bullshit. That's kind of what I thought. Like, I always thought they would do something to bring the Black Panther back, whether it be age up his kid or, multiverse shenanigans. But I'm at the point where I think it should just be T'Challa, man. Like, not even the kid. Fuck the kid. Like, the man. We need the man back.
The man back? Yo, Jaden Smith. Just give it to him.
Oh, Jaden. Sean, you can take your headphones off and walk away if you want.
Wow. Hold the fuck on, bro. You just said Jaden Smith to play the Black Panther? Motherfucker, I wish I had 5 red flags.
Is there a way to sway Michael B. Jordan in this role?
Hey, that's a recast. That's a
Repurpose.
recast from 2 actors who shared the space. I don't think
guess,
that
yeah,
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That'd be weird to see. Like, oh, hey, I saw Black Panther, the classic Black Panther. Now it's this.
Yeah.
Ben Lively says they should be treating these characters like James Bond 007 franchise. I don't disagree.
And they have. It's only more recently this idea that, we can't recast. Fuck that. Everybody is replaceable. I don't care who we're talking about. Robert Downey Jr. is not the only man alive who can play Iron Man. He's done a tremendous job. Synonymous with the character today.
Yep.
That doesn't have to be that way forever. Michael Keaton's was a great Batman in '89. We moved forward in the same decade, within a few years. Christian Bale, great Batman. We moved forward.
Batman should be the kind of cookie cutter for this situation. The only issue is that the world reboots with every new Batman. So that's a little tricky. But
No, though, right? Because the Batman '89 to the last one by Schumacher, they're together.
I think there could be some. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. With that take of the James Bond piece, yeah, like in my mind there are only a couple: Sean Connery, Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan. Like those are like what is in my mind when I think of those characters. But they can share all of that.
Yeah. I just don't think it's a big deal. I really don't. You get a new comic book artist and you go from Tom Cruise to, whoever else looking like Iron Man, like it's just, who cares? They look different. Big deal. But we'll leave it there on that subject. I didn't even set a likes goal. I forgot to. We are almost at 100 likes. I would love it if we could end at over 100. If we could get to over 100 before we wrap things up here, that would be super cool. So hit the like button if you haven't. I do have a little bit more Patreon shout outs to do. And then we are going to we're gonna spin the wheel. We're gonna spin the wheel.
That wheel.
Hell yeah. Oh, King Taichi says, I've never seen your name before. What's up, dude? Explain to me how the the neighborhood DC Comics fan, picked up 15 issues of Marvel's 2023 The Avengers this past week. This doesn't normally happen to me. Hey, first of all, welcome. Second of all, that's what's up. Third of all, what compelled you to do that? And fourth, what did you think, dude?
I like Luna's comment here in regards to the T'Challa casting. I would say Shamik Moore away, but he's gonna pitch a Kate Bishop story.
Oh no, no!
Yeah, when Black Panther 3, Kate Bishop shows up.
Who's more down bad? Who's more down bad? Shamik Moore over what's her name?
Haley Steinfeld. Yeah.
Thank you. Or Peter Parker mainline over MJ.
Shamik Moore's receipts are a little more embarrassing, I gotta say.
They're pretty fucked.
It's rough.
Okay.
To get called out by another actress saying you're a fucking weirdo on her tick, like that's a generational L. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's never gonna live that down.
Yeah.
I got another one. Shamik Moore over Haley Steinfeld, or Spider-Man fans over the relationship between Peter and MJ. 18-year grudge.
18-year grudge.
I gotta vote Spider-Man fans on that one.
Growing.
Here's the thing. One more day to make me cringe and close my Twitter app. But Shamik Moore did.
Oh, shit. Okay, let's spend a little bit more time celebrating our wonderful patrons here. Stick with us. We are going to do this, and then we're going to spin the wheel. So I want to say thank you to the Grand Alchemist, Chop Harder Alchemist, John Barrier B, Todd Tremor Butler, David, Doomsday David Melendez Doria, Cameron Torn Thornton, Steve Swarm Canaris, my guy Steve, Brian Rage Redmond, Panda V Panda, Ted Wong, Mad Max, the absolute overthinker, Blur, Jekyll Jose, Kobe the Crafter, whose origin is about to come. I just want to read the rest of these. Scripture joined us. We had so many fucking people join us. Like, it's crazy. Scripture joined us. Hecatron joined us. Amin the Almighty Perez rejoined us. Jalen the Sanguine Sorcerer rejoined us. Houston Murphy joined us. And Jasper Eddy joined us. That is all within the last week or so.
Get it. Get it.
You guys got that Christmas money? You got those Christmas checks,
Get like
and you
a
said, "Wait, let me drop a bag on the Comics Pals. Let me throw a tenner at the Pals."
your Aunt Petunia gave you a card with a Patreon gift card in there. Those exist? I don't know.
Oh shoot, who should I support? Let me see. We've got the Comics Pals. We've got Jessica Negri. We've got we- who else? Who else do we have? Where are we
That's
throwing
different
those
Patreon. Sean.
Patreon?
There's different tiers in that one.
You're right, and I've seen some of them tears. And let me tell you something. Those girls are making it happen. I wish we could have a Patreon tier of $50, $75 a month, but nobody's paying that much to see my feet.
I
Damn.
mean, people, some incels on the internet are griping about hoflation lately. I'd
Ah,
do it if we could.
get your money. Show whole, talk about comics. What's the difference, really?
Sometimes our opinions, we are showing our ass on our opinions, but
Fair play. Fair play.
Sometimes.
Hey, chat said Spider-Man fans are more down bad, and I got to agree. Hecatron said or Sean for redhead superheroes.
that's the true one right there. I was gonna call it out, but I was letting Sean come up with his own scenarios.
It's okay. It's okay. I might be that. I might be that. But let me tell you something. Let me tell you what I'm not. I am not hung up on any storylines from 18 years ago.
I like you making sure you mention the age. I swear, 18. She was 18.
Oh my god. Oh my god. You took that to a different, way darker place. I'm just saying.
Only pals, impending, incoming.
Oh no. Uh all right. So I want to get to this origin here. We're going to do the origin of Kobe the Crafter. So here we go. Potentially the most uncomfortable truth of our world is how vital war is to peace. As a civilized society, we love to believe that peace is achievable through peace, that a hand extended is more powerful than a firearm. There are forces in this world that would gleefully cut the hands of any person foolish enough to give them quarter. Kobe saw this firsthand during his tour of duty. He fought dutifully for his country, deployed overseas to fight a war he didn't start, to kill men whose names he didn't know, who had never truly wronged him. War in the name of peace. Kobe watched many men die in those days, his friends and the unknown soldiers on the other side of the battlefield. Kobe quickly realized that their lives meant so little to the people who placed them here, like pieces on a chessboard, that they didn't bother to equip them with the best armor and weaponry available. Faulty guns, armor with cracks and exposures that created easy targets for the opposition. Pinned down in a ditch, heavy fire raining down on him and his squadron, he looked around and saw the armor barely hanging on their bodies. Something overtook him, told him to reach out to his brothers. He extended his hand, grabbed onto one of the soldiers, and within moments, his armor was fortified. They were all shocked, but without enough time to analyze what was happening, Kobe did the same for each one of his men until they were all encased in armor, stronger than what any military could produce. Kobe saved many lives that day, including his own. He chose to leave the service soon after, disheartened and disillusioned by what he learned about his country and humanity in the arid land. The next few years were lonely as Kobe chose to isolate himself from the world, not using his newfound gifts. Then war came home. Kobe saw the streets full of chaos and people who stood up to fight it back. He knew then that he needed to be of service again, to ensure that those on the front line were ready to wage war in the name of peace. Thank you for your service, Kobe, and welcome to the Palsverse.
Sick. The opening line, Sean, was like, "Whoa, Ooh, all right."
Peace begets peace, or so
Something to chew
so
on.
so people think.
Right, exactly. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. Gandhi tried it.
Gandhi.
He tried it. He tried it. Peaceful guy, except when it came to his wives.
Oof, oof, yo.
Gandhi getting strays on the comics pals.
I love Gandhi. I used to write about Gandhi, but I like to tell the truth about
New
people.
Sean lore dropping yet again.
Yo.
Oh, if you only knew. We've got one last bit of business here. We are going to spin the wheel. If you would like an origin like that, you got to join the Palsverse. Patreon.com/the Comics Pals. Click the join the Palsverse tier or higher, and we will get you situated with an origin. We've got, as you heard, a boatload of them to produce. I think we owe like 5 or something like that. So we'll be hitting them over the next few weeks. Thank you to everybody who has joined us recently. Tyler, why don't you go ahead and spin that wheel for us, and let's see what we arrive at.
Gladly. So let's see what we get here. It's going to be the same thing we always get, probably. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Oh, we haven't done this one in a while. Be the editor.
Huh. Wow. Be the editor. Yeah, that hasn't come up in quite some time. So, be the editor is basically where each one of us has to pitch a concept based on the prompt. And by the way, I wanted to say, Brave and the Bold, remember last week we didn't know what the fuck that was? Robert Kashabek is the one who came up with that game. He reached out to me the other day and he said that he had come up with the game and he repitched it to me. So just so we're all on the
So if it comes
the up
around
and up.
again, we'll be ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically what it is you create a scenario and the players have to pick 2 heroes to deal with it. When we did it, it was what if Magneto was holding a nuke over the White House?
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
Okay. Yep.
So that was pretty sick. But we can play this here now. It was be the editor, right? So what I have, this is a little bit crazy, but I want to see what we can do, what we can come up with. Pitch a creative team and an event for Marvel or DC Comics. So what we need to do is pitch who's going to do the writing and the art at the minimum, add other people if you would like, colors and etc. And the framework for an event that you would like to see at Marvel or DC Comics. Any questions? Are we all clear?
Just picking one, right? Just pick Marvel, pick DC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And while we think Hecatron said, "Whoa, this is why I show up." Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. Steve Matthews says another sweet origin. Good job, Sean. Thanks. Thank you so much. Electric says, Sean, have you ever considered applying to make audiobooks? I don't even know where to apply to do that. I would love to do something like that, but I don't even know if I have the chops. But thank you for suggesting that I might. Mike Hank says, sup, dogs. This sounds like American Idol, but it's comic pitches. Hell yeah. And you, the listener, will determine who won. Are you guys ready? Ready with a pitch? Do you want to roll to see who goes first? How do we want to do this?
Let's roll to see who goes first, so that gives me a little more time to think.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm
fair
ready.
enough.
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Do you want to just go?
I can just go first. Let you guys kind of gestate a bit.
I'm going to give you, how do you feel about 2 minutes?
I don't even I even really think I need that much, but sure.
All right. 2 minutes so you can use what you use.
Sure. All right. So this is set in the Marvel Universe. The world is reeling with an Avengers that, now has a more global presence. Black Panther's on the team. Captain America's on the team. They've been really, dealing with some global threats. But one global threat that they've never really fully tackled yet is the nation state of the vampire nation. This is a world where blood hunt never happened. This is where the threat of vampires was properly tackled the way it should have been in Marvel Comics. Jason Aaron coming back to write an event that he has been teasing in a lot of his books for years, that the nation state of the vampire nation, controlled by Dracula and his team of he's got like a little Man-Thing guy on one of his teams, finally decides to war with the rest of the world. So it's Jason Aaron, and coming back for comics for a special guest event run for a thing that he hasn't really done an event for. Stuart Immonen.
Damn.
So Jason Aaron, Stuart Immonen in World War V, the Marvel Comics vampire event. This kind of takes a lot of the desperate themes that Aaron had in his Avengers run with the Vampire Nation, Dracula, Blade being a member of the Avengers, but also factors in Namor and a bit of the Atlantis stuff that I guess he's tackling now in the Namor book. This is my what if event because I think Jason Aaron had a lot of ideas here that were good, and I would have liked to have seen them kind of properly brought to fruition.
I love it.
To it.
Marco, you good to go?
Yeah. I'm gonna do. All right. Good time.
Yeah. When you start.
Okay. So follow me on this one. This is gonna be a Doctor Fate JSA event, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson and artist Chuck Dixon. So kind of getting into that like Toth aesthetic, and the thought here is that Fate has disappeared. The JSA have been searching for him and kind of looking in all aspects that are magical and or what's up, Tyler?
Sorry, I thought Chuck Dixon was a writer.
No. And um, because they've been looking in these places of magic, in places of godhood, they cross over with Wonder Woman, with the Justice League, with Aquaman, with Superman, and Philip Kennedy Johnson has dealt with these concepts and stuff like the Last Gods, and then also it helps him to push forward the stuff that he's been doing in the background with the old gods of Superman, and it culminates in Fate, who is this all-powerful magic user, being taken over by the old gods and used to then strike at all of the hearts of godhood in each of our trinity, in each of our major players across the DC landscape. And the JSA frees him. They regroup, and they put forward a final bout against the old gods and come out saving the day.
Okay.
Marco, Chuck Dixon's a writer. I just looked it up.
Is he not an artist?
No.
Who am I thinking of?
That's where I'm confused this whole time. I mean, if he wants to give it a go, that's fine.
I just pulled out. I was looking at background because I like this. I like this run. Who is this? This is Dixon.
No, Dixon
That's
might have.
so funny.
Dixon wrote that, I think.
Dixon wrote that. He's on the second here. This is Marcos Martin.
Yeah, that's Marcus Martin.
Martin. I want this.
Okay, so Marcus Martin. And is it Dr. Fate or is it 90s Fate? Because you said Fate at one point.
Doctor Fate.
Dr. Fate. Okay.
Doctor Fate. I like that style for Doctor Fate.
Wow. All right. Sick pitch, although we did have that little discrepancy.
Yeah, we're the editors. We're helping out. Yeah.
Right. And then, all right, so that leaves me to go. Okay. So I'm going to set my clock here. I'm not going to hold it up because I need to talk with my hands. Okay. This is going to be an 8-issue series written by Dennis Camp with art by Steve McNiven called Avengers Prime Evil. The idea is that Ultron is building a prime body. He's building it from all the materials, all the metals that exist across the multiverse. He's using it to build an ultimate body. And to do that and distract the Avengers from his mission, he puts together and conspires to create a new Masters of Evil. So he takes, obviously himself, the Enchantress, the Red Skull, Magneto can't team up with the Red Skull.
Yeah, hold on.
Not
Drama.
Magneto. But people like that, villains of that caliber, people who can stand toe to toe with the core Avengers, and the Avengers are defeated. Ultron's plan is so masterful and so brilliant. He probably brings in the Maestro, people like that, and the core Avengers are defeated. And what becomes required is a group of heroes that Ultron and the Masters of Evil haven't necessarily dealt with before. We're calling on the young Avengers. We're calling on the new champions. We're calling on people like Kamala Khan. We're calling on Miles Morales. We're calling on heroes whose time is now. The old school Avengers have been taken off the board. It is time for the new school to rise. Can they stand against this evil, this prime evil, and save the world once again? That is the question that we are asking. And hopefully, Dennis Camp can deliver the same kind of magic with the Ultimates with these new heroes that we would be featuring in this series. Boom. Avengers Prime Evil.
McNiven, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dennis Camp.
That's a good combo.
McNiven, interesting.
Now,
It's like a Next Avengers.
Sorry?
It's almost like Next Avengers, that the Young Avengers movie cartoon thing they did.
Oh my God! Yeah, what was that, like 2008?
Had T'Child in it with Storm.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. I don't know. I'm cool with those characters.
Yeah. I think I saw that. I think I remember that. To decide who won, make sure that you vote. We've got a poll up right now. We'll leave it up for a couple minutes. You guys make sure to vote and let us know who you think had the best pitch. Electric says, love it. Tyler teaming up with Cantwell, doing another Namor mini, and possibly PKJ, but he seems stretched across too many titles at the moment. Oh, Izzy pitched one. A Moon Knight. It's Moon Knight, Hulk, and Legion headlining called Secret Identities. Kind of like a black kryptonite thing happens to all Earth's heroes, separating their personas into separate bodies. Tim Sheridan writing, Becca Carey lettering. Still thinking of an artist and colorist. Okay.
Interesting.
Tim Sheridan.
You can get you can get a crazy artist for that. Give me Martin Simmons on that one.
Ooh.
Just make it make it almost like a vertical Marvel book.
I'm surprised you didn't go with Jed McKay, considering he owns the keys to the Moon Knight.
That
He
kingdom.
doesn't have the keys to Hulk, and nobody has the keys to Legion. Somebody left those keys at a key party, I think. Went home by themselves.
Yes, definitely. Oh man. Okay, before we close the poll and before we get out of here, I want to make sure you guys know that once again, this Tuesday, we are interviewing Jason Aaron. We will be live with Jason Aaron here on the channel, 6 p.m. Eastern. Do not miss it. I need you guys to know this. All right? To get creators of that ilk, you've got to be able to show, a showing. You've got to be able to pull people in. They've got to know that they come on this podcast and our audience shows up. It helps a lot. So when we do these interviews, you guys show up. It gives us, I hate to use this word, it gives us a little more clout. It gives us the ability to say, hey, when you came on, our people showed up for you. Look at these views. So show up, show support, ask questions, super chats, all that good stuff on Tuesday. I'm asking for a wave of support from you guys. So bring it on. Also, Thursday is not Pals Pulls this week. Friday is when we're doing Pals Pulls. I will be on the Near Mint Condition channel, a part of their evergreen show. So on Friday, we will do Pals Pulls. That gives you guys another day to get through the books. And I hope that results in more of you coming to hang out with us live in the moment. That would be sick.
Please do.
It's cold out, guys. You don't want to go hang out on a Friday night. Just hang out with us in the warmth of your own house.
Yeah,
Get
exactly.
those energy bills up. Come on.
Mike Hanks says it'd be dope to do a Pals head-to-head pitches, like a tourney with you guys picking winners. But like, whose pitches would they be? Ours, and then we rank our own? Is that what you mean? It's so much easier if you guys rate ours. Charlotte says all great pitches, including Izzy's. Completely agree. Lectric says Ty's got my vote, but loved each of your pitch. Well, let's go ahead and end it. Tyler definitely swept up
Nice.
52% of the vote went Tyler's
Wow.
way. Marco and I split the rest at 23% apiece.
And I didn't even mention how at the end of the event, Marvel gets the rights to the Twilight series, and then we factor in Edward Cullen into
Oh
the Marvel
no.
universe. That might have lost me. I'm glad I didn't say that. Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. Mike Hank says that the listeners would vote using Google Forms. There's an idea. You're thinking.
Interesting.
Put that in the back of our minds. Thank you for the suggestion. Appreciate that. Steve Matthews says, I'd love to see a Starjammers event, maybe on a Cosmic Quest, written by Walt Simonson, but drawn by Otto Schmidt. And no frickin' Celestials.
Damn. No Celestials in a cosmic event? Is that even a cosmic event?
It's whatever Steve Matthews says it is.
That's
Okay.
true. It's true.
All right, friends. We're going to get out of here. Thank you for making this an incredible show. Appreciate all of our super chatters. Appreciate everybody that commented, everybody that joined us on Discord today, everybody that liked. You guys are real. We will see you next Tuesday. Appreciate you showing up, showing out. Until